Welcome back, everyone, to Lesser Known Operators. I'm your host, Nicholas Allen, and my guest today is Kevin Key, also known as the Key Brand on Instagram. He is a Patriot cattle rancher, Green Beret officer, Red Empire, 2nd Ranger Battalion veteran. He's into fitness, being a carnivore, husband, father, loving his life. And the part that I like the most is he's smiling in his Instagram profile picture. I'll have links to his socials in the show description. Today's episode is sponsored by the Green Beret owned business Precision Wellness Group and Dr. Taylor Bosley, who is said Green Beret. Precision Wellness Group helps you restore balance, unlock vitality through bioidentical hormone therapy and evidence-based personalized telemedicine. Dr. Taylor Bosley is a board-certified physician, a U.S. Army veteran, and a former Green Beret. So he knows where you've been, where you want to go, and he knows how to get you there. And he's an actual doctor who can prescribe you actual medicine. So if hormone replacement therapy, TRT, HRT, peptides, if this is something you've been thinking about for a while now, or just looking into, look no further than Precision Wellness Group and Dr. Taylor Bosley. I will have links to their website and socials in the show description, along with Kevin Key and the Key brand. I do appreciate you guys. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, pass these episodes along. Thank you for listening. Leave us a review and enjoy the show. Kevin Key, welcome to Lesser Known Operators, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Oh, absolutely, man. You look like you're having a blast on Instagram. And one of the rare people that I've had on, you're smiling in your Instagram picture. So you gotta be doing something right.
Life is fun. Life is fun. I like waking up each day.
That's good, right? It didn't used to be that way for me, but now I've got this. I've made my own reality here, and I'm a lot happier. And plus, I stopped drinking, so that was probably like 90% of everything. I was trying to, drink myself to death. So that was probably a big part of it.
I'm glad you found success there.
Yeah. Well, I had to. So, but now we've got this on. I appreciate you coming on. I got some, as usual, did my 5 minutes of notes here, and we'll get after it. But really, how did you get involved in a cosmic tiki pool business from being a Green Beret?
That's you know what, the Green Beret applies a lot to our Cosmic Tiki business because I moved. I finished battalion command in 2018, and I was pretty sure I wanted to get out. I commanded in the 82nd, and if you don't command in the SF regiment, as you know, you're not coming back likely unless you get real lucky as a DCO or something. So I wasn't interested in serving coffee for high-ranking people at the Pentagon or not having any control of my career. So I decided I was dropping my retirement packet. And same time, looking with my then fiance to where we wanted to live. And I'd always liked real estate, always dabbled a little bit in it. And I looked at the 2020 BRAC, Base Realignment and Closing Commission, and what they were doing between private industry and NASA. And the Space Force didn't exist at the time, but all that they were dumping into the Florida Space Coast. And at the time, there's about 10 launches a year. Now we're up to over 100 launches this year. And it's projected to continue to grow. But looking at that, I thought, holy cow, this place is going to boom. And not only did it die like every other place in 2008, but in 2011, they took the space shuttle program away. And this place just dried up. And I say this place because I'm here in Cocoa Beach now. And so I thought, God, I'm going to go there. We're going to go there and we're going to start buying property. And my wife, she's a science geek and I love her for it, physicist and electrical engineer. So she needs to be around some tech. And I'm a generational cattle rancher back west. And I need access to get there. And Orlando's a fantastic airport. So it just kind of met all the right indicators and criteria that we were looking at, similar to mission analysis, IPB, all that kind of stuff. And I thought, we're going to go there. Well, then we started doing real estate, did a lot of transactions in a short period of time. It worked. And then started to take the leap to commercial. And without any sexy infill or exfill, I went down and looked at this property, this commercial property. There's actually two, and watched what was happening. I just sat at a park bench with a cup of coffee and looked at families, and it was downtown property, and kids were hot in the sun. They were crying. They were screaming. Parents were wiping their feet off with wet naps. There's nowhere to shower. And about a block walk in a hot sun to the closest downtown showers. And they being in the sun with the kids, it was hot, and you could see the parents were just getting exasperated. And Nana can't pee unless she buys a cheeseburger somewhere, and that's another part of a walk of about a block. So, you know what we need to do? We need to just create a family entertainment center right here. And so it was really just that kind of mission analysis, IPB, looking at doing a leaders recon, and bought both properties, reassessed them, appraised them together, and built a family entertainment center that's a pool and an indoor arcade, and it's right on the beach, so you can shower. We sell hot dogs and pizzas and all that kind of stuff, and it's fun. It's a great family environment, and that's how we got involved in that.
Man, just from walking around, you hadn't lived in Cocoa Beach prior to this, or you just were
By
buying
this, but
properties?
at this time, I've been here for about 3 years, and I've been doing primary real estate transactions. I've been buying things, fixing them up, running them as Airbnbs, running some as long terms, looking at the market, churning it, and selling them. At one time, I had up to 12 Airbnbs running. We had a small staff working for us, and but I really didn't like that. There's second and third order effects where prices a lot of good people out of an area, and I kind of saw that and started becoming part of the community. And I didn't really like doing Airbnbs. It was good money, but I didn't like felt like dirty money. I really wanted to transition. So once we had enough capital, we were able to kind of make the leap into commercial, which takes a leap because everything was overtime and over budget. It took us about 2 years to build that property after we bought it and get all the permitting and all the approvals and the business approvals and all that. But it's working now.
What do you mean by dirty money with the Airbnb things?
So, that's a gray term, but in my mind, I got to befriend a lot of folks in the community and part of the VFW and enjoy this small town of only 12,000 people. We get 2.5 million tourists a year, but we're only about 12,000 people, small. And you get to know folks, and they can no longer afford rent, and the rent prices are going up because what I described with what was going on in the real estate market was happening, and it was working if you bought real estate, but if you were renting, it became really hard to continue to afford rent for a lot of good people, and it impacts negatively the service industry, which impacts negatively all industries. And I just saw that, and I was doing mostly condos, so it's not directly affecting the more affordable housing that was going up in price and forcing people's up. But I think it's part of a bigger industry, and I just didn't like being in the rental business. And I like having friendly engagements with folks, and sometimes you got to kick tenants out, and I had to do that a couple times, and I didn't like doing that.
Hmm, okay. But with the Airbnb, it's more was it different, or is it kind of just the same trajectory with those, or?
The Airbnbs. So what happens a lot in towns across the United States is that allow Airbnbs is they'll come in and they'll buy. Oh, let's just say, I had a quadplex in Cape Canaveral, and so they'll buy things like that are generally more of an efficiency like housing where a young family can kind of get in and have it and live there for rent. And then when you come in and you start buying all these and turn them into Airbnbs, you can't compete. Those that do long-term rentals can't often compete depending on where the market is, and the market's done shifts and stuff to where it's more lucrative to do long-term rentals in certain scenarios than Airbnbs based on this tax or the other. But when it's the opposite, those Airbnb prices go up, and it's great. People get a nice vacation, they get a kitchen, they get all the things you get with an Airbnb. But now you have folks that were counting on something to be available for $1,500 $2,000 a month to rent to take care of their families, and then the inventory goes down, and those folks have to leave. And so you get to see that, and I didn't like that part of that business.
Can't yeah, imagine. It's interesting though that you got to see that in such a short amount of time.
So the area did boom. 2020 hit, the
Yeah.
bracket took effect, the area exploded. And we went to all those launches that I'm talking about now, over 100 a year of SpaceX, Blue Origin, New Horizon, L3 Harris is growing. I mean, all this stuff is really happening. So the areas coming in, people, a lot of white collar jobs, and the former service industry that folks that are good, hardworking Americans could no longer afford to live here. So Airbnb is not the only thing pushing them out, but it was a direct correlation. And I got to know folks that couldn't. When I do know folks that can't afford to live here but still work here, and anyway, so not try to jump on some moral high horse. I didn't solve the problem at one way or another. I'm just no longer part of it.
No, I get it. It makes sense. It just, yeah, to see those things. and be there when those things do happen, and then you see more of the effects because everything really takes a long time for it to happen, and then you only look at it later and you go, "Oh fuck," you know. That's the same with history. That's why we have history teachers and all that other shit.
Yeah, from a
Coke.
just real quick, just what I looked at it is like I'm investing my money in the community and building and improving these houses, and that's kind of how I felt. But I wasn't seeing the
Right.
other side of the coin, and there is a definite other side to that coin.
Yeah. Yeah. Cost everything. Fuck. Everything's so fucking expensive now.
It
Everything.
is.
And it just, um, because we spoke before, I buy half a cow and then I eat half a cow. But so there was a couple year, like each 2 year gap where I'm like not getting anything from the store. And then I go to the store, I'm like, why is everything so expensive? Uh, I'm just gonna stick with my ribeye and my ground beef, and this shit's getting out of hand. But definitely during that time, it's fucking nuts. But you said 12,000 people, so Cocoa Beach is smaller than Elko, Nevada, which is out there.
Yep, yep. It's smaller now. We have surrounding cities. It's we're a barrier island, so you got to. I always try to not cross a bridge in any given day, but sometimes you got to get up and cross the bridge. But we got a Walmart in Merritt Island, which is the large town, which is only about 20 minutes away. Melbourne's only about 30 minutes away, which is about. I'm gonna throw a number. It's probably wrong, but we'll say 350,000. I don't know exactly how big it is, but it's a pretty big city. And we look like a big city because we have some taller buildings, and Port Canaveral is right near us, and so we get 2.5 million tourists a year. We're Disney's and Orlando's closest beach, so we have a huge amount of tourist population, but a very low amount of people living here. We have one junior senior high school, one liquor store, a couple grocery stores. The mayor will come to some of the home football games, and then we get the fire trucks out there for all the parades, and because there's just the one high school, and so the town kind of centers around it, and it's a neat Americana kind of feel to it.
Well, that's got to be nice having the amenities around, but not overbearing. Florida's a weird place too because you're not in Central Florida. Northern Florida is completely different than where you're at.
Very
That's a whole
true.
nother state. Um, so what drew you? So it was just what you saw in analyzing the market down there. That's what drew you down there in the first place, or did you have any ties before that?
I had zero ties. I didn't know one person.
Okay.
And but it was really looking at that affordability. Florida's an expensive state. I
Yeah.
worked about close to 5 years cumulative in Sauk South, living in the Miami area, which is very expensive, and living up near Jacksonville, similar problem. St. Augustine, similar problem. And here, housing it's still somewhat affordable compared to most of Florida for what you can get. I have a house on the water with a boat on it, with a ski boat on the lift, and there's no way I could afford that in a lot of places in Florida, most places in Florida, and within an hour of an airport, a major airport.
Florida is deceptively expensive because don't you guys have no sales tax?
Correct.
But I went
No
down
state income tax.
to
No, we have
no
sales
state
tax. No
income,
state income tax.
no state income tax. That's it. But I went down there for some therapy in 2017, I believe. I had a lot of time off, and I may or may not have bought in a car and driven Uber in all my time off because I was so bored and I didn't want to get in trouble. So I go register my car at the DMV, and the insurance, registration, plates, everything was more than the car cost. It was like a couple $100 more than the car cost, and the insurance was double what my new car cost in Wisconsin or with Washington to insure. It is very expensive to drive in Florida. I found
Hmm.
out, and
Yeah.
because you guys are suing each other wholesale down there.
Yeah, lawyers like it here. Medical professionals like it here, and that's more often worse than better. But we do have good medical. I like Florida. It's grown on me. It's definitely got a unique attitude. To this day, we've been under a Spanish flag more than the U.S. flag, and it's kind of got the like, leave me alone. We'll do what we want down here.
Hey, that's very Texasy of you guys to say. Until people from California figure it out and they move all the way over there, I guess. And
Yeah, well, there's the interesting thing about Nevada has a similar problem to Texas without the Californians coming in, which I'm very acute to. The Florida doesn't have that because they're moving to Texas and Nevada and other Western states because they can afford it. We get a lot of New Yorkers, but the New Yorkers that are coming here come here because they can afford it, which is a different dynamic.
Yeah. And then what is it? When I was down in North Carolina, everybody there said, "Oh yeah, they go down to Florida, they can't afford it, and they move here where the halfbacks stay. They stop in North Carolina and they resettle."
I'm sorry, North
And that
Carolina. Lived there almost 10 years of my life. My heart goes out to you.
I like it there. The people are nice. It's man, I say I'm isolated here in Wisconsin. There's very few Green Berets, but I was just down there out in the sticks or something. And man, you can't do anything without running into somebody who was in group or in the unit or something everywhere. Even at a gas station in the middle of fucking nowhere, you run into somebody. So just, I like it. I like it down there. And then it's also, man, you're not as cool as you think you are down there.
It's hot, but other kinds of cool too.
So I imagine you're not ranching cattle in Florida. That's got to be out in Nevada.
That is, yeah, that's very cool. Of course, I'm looking at my role is definitely on the business end. I don't do as much of the sexy horseback stuff. I try to do some, but we got professionals that do that a lot better than me. And it's kind of more of a commander sergeant major role. Our ranch manager, he's part owner of the herd, and he's been with us about 30 years, and their family, and he knows what he's doing. And I work the books end more of it, and go to the sales and do that, and really enjoy it, and really appreciate what he and some of our other hands do for us. They're amazing Americans, but
How many
they got it
cattle are we
hammered.
talking about?
I'm sorry.
How many cattle are we talking about?
Well, Clint Black would always say, you don't ask a banker how much money he has in the bank, and if you're in the cattle business, that's your money. But we got enough to. My dad will say enough to keep us busy. But we got quite a few hundred pairs. We're cow
Oh,
calf,
okay.
by the way. So we run. What we do is we buy the bulls, we breed the cows, we raise the young steers and heifers, and then we sell them off when they're about 9 months old, and then we start all over again. They go from there to a stalker for about 9 to 10 months. Then they go to a feedlot for about 3 months, and then they go to a packing flat, and then they go to your plate.
Okay. I yeah, I got a guy out here I was getting from, and then he would only he wouldn't sell them to people too much, and but then people started coming to him, and he'd have one kind of ready every few months. Uh, Unbelievable the difference in taste from the supermarket to what you're getting from a local farmer. Uh,
Yes.
I don't know. Now, is there? You might know this. Is there a difference? Because the cows here, they're Wisconsin cows. They're raised different climate, different. They're eating different things. Are these
Mhm.
animals going to taste different based on your region as well?
Yeah, they should. And I'd like to see us get more back to that. What you're doing is what I'd really like to see the cattle business do. Right now, I'm part of the larger cattle system, cogs and sprockets and things fitting in, and that's what we do. We're a cow calf. We sell to the highest bidder. If that's Carnival Cruise Lines and they want to sell our cattle around the world, they can do that. Although I don't think they're in that market. And the point just being that whoever buys our cattle, it just goes to the highest bidder. And then from there, that's a stalker, and they'll just normally sit on green pastures, and they often will go to. We've sold to Nebraska, we've sold to California all the time, and so the cows are moving around a lot, and that's kind of just the way the industry is set up. I like being in the cattle business, but I don't like the way that the industry is set up, and it's really hard to buy a quarter or half cow. And uh, the way you do that is you buy it, and then you agree to their way of processing it and finishing it. Because without a USDA inspector on the payroll of a finishing plant, you cannot legally sell cattle. I cannot sell any cattle to anybody in form of food. Not allowed. And there's no processing plant in Nevada, so I can't even. I'd have to go to Idaho. But I do want to do this. I want to kind of modify the business and start getting more direct to consumer and tailor it and keep the all the gnarly crap out of them. All the too many vaccines, too many of antibiotics, too much stress on the animals when you're shipping them all over, and create more of a farm to table business. But it's a lot of infrastructure, and it's not something I can just snap my fingers and do tomorrow.
Okay. And is that more? What's the term? Like regenerative farming, I think. or something like
Well,
that?
that
Or
is a term commonly associated with it, but you can run farm to table doing it. You with I mean, you could legitimately do a farm to table with all the vaccines, all the antibiotics, all the confined spaces, all that. So it that could be misleading because it's not necessarily regenerative if you're doing farm to table.
how long would that process take for you to switch over to that?
Well, that's a good question, and I don't think I would be interested in switching quickly. I think I think I'd be interested in starting out, then growing it and then seeing where that market is, and like starting off with maybe 20 or so head a year and finish that. And then another problem with finishing, especially if you get into, you're opening up a can of worms here, and I'm sorry, I'm letting them open, but the more you get into finishing, now you got the debate of grain fed versus grass, or grain finished versus grass finished. Well, a lot of people want to do the grass because it seems more natural and more in tune with nature. But now you just added potentially up to a year of that cattle's life, because you can finish about a year earlier on grain. You can fatten that animal up. So you're going to use the same amount of land for the same amount of animals. And at the end of the day, even that additional year, that animal will be smaller. And so you've got less yield. And a lot of people will also say the product is less quality. There's a grain finish will often fatten them up and give them that meat, that marbling and that ribeye where it tastes real good. And the grass is real hard to do it. You get more of a gamey taste, and it's hard to, you're getting less steak often than you are with a grain finish. That said, I think the jury's kind of out, because when an operation is making these decisions of how they're going to finish an animal, that's normally a 5 year out decision. When you're looking at your current genetics, what kind of bulls are you buying? What kind of feed are you putting them on? How long is your aging process? What's the temperature like? And I'm talking about when you got the carcass on the rail. You might have them in there for 2 weeks. You might have them in there for 2 months. You might be playing a lot with temperature, and so there's a lot to do there. And you're trying to also put out a product. So the amount of time it would take to really dial that in, I think that, and we've only really been doing this grass finish thing in bulk for maybe 10 to 15 years across our country. And so I think the jury's out, and I give it, I want to see where we can take the beef industry in new ways. And maybe grass is a better solution. Maybe we employ vertical farming and new ways to produce on smaller amounts of land, because large and small cattle ranches are disappearing by the day, and they're being replaced with houses, and that's a hard thing to be replaced. And our herd size right now, beef prices are up, but our herd size is down to the lowest number since the 1950s, and I don't even know how we can grow it back to where it should be.
A lot of stuff to unpack there. Um, let's pick one. But okay, so my guy out here, we have a lot of grass, but I guess is it can't be the same out in Elko, right?
No, no,
Because
we got a
everything's
lot
grass here.
high desert, high desert.
Okay, so you're having to feed the animals. Um,
Generally, what we do, we have some beautiful pastures and valleys, beautiful. And
okay,
what we'll do is, but we also have some rough winters. It's a high altitude desert. It snows a lot, and it freezes. So what we'll do a lot is we'll move them up into the mountains for the summer, and they kind of just get left alone. They won't see a human often for maybe a month at a time, and they're up there with their new babies, and they're just being cows, finding water holes and walking around. And there's plenty of feed up there, and it actually creates a really good product that northern Nevada cattlemen will tell you is the greatest. And the logic being that they have to walk up and down, and they're working out every day, sometimes walking 20 miles every day, back and forth to different things and water holes. And then when the winter starts coming in the fall, we'll bring them down to the pastures. Now they were off those pastures all summer. So what's happening in the summer is we're growing hay, we're fertilizing it, and then like right now we're wrapping up all of our hay, and we do the big round bales, and we're haying across all the pastures, and then that becomes their feed through the winter. And when we bring them back to the pastures and go out and feed them every morning, make sure supplement them if need be with extra protein, and make sure, and then we can watch them a little bit better too. So they'll start calving normally around March, April, and you want to kind of be there and make sure you can help these new moms and make sure that the calves are alive on the ground healthy.
sounds like a tremendous amount of work compared to what my buddy here tells me. He's like, yeah, they live over there, and then like they go in the pen for 2 months, and we get them fat, and then they get on the truck. I was like, oh, okay, that sounds pretty simple. Yours sounds pretty complicated, having to move around and stuff.
Yeah, we move around. It's a lot of fun though. I
I
sure
bet
enjoy it.
it's like city slickers. It's city slickers popped into my head right there when moving them, with old Curly and who's that? I forget his name. I don't know. If anybody's seen City Slickers, have you, or do you know the movie I'm talking about? Okay.
Yeah, Bill.
I thought of
You always Tamarisk. All right.
Billy Crystal. That's it. Yeah, you said it. Yeah.
Yeah, Bill. Mhm.
Remember renting that from, no, I think we rented it at the library because we were poor. Yeah. I watched it over and over again. I didn't know we were going to get so deep. Like I said, I get big into this like a year and a half, 2 years ago. That's pretty much all I eat. You said you're about at 90%, allows you to have some leeway. I have the same policy, except I don't drink anymore. Is My diet lets me do whatever the fuck I want. If I want to go eat off the rails, and then I'll just come back to pretty much 95% either rice, meat, or milk, and that's 95% of the food I eat all the time. Has that always been a way of life for you, or did you just get into it as you got older?
You
Because
know,
the army, that's pretty tough to do in the military.
yeah, I don't. Yeah, and I don't preach it to this day. And my stepson's in First Ranger Battalion, and I definitely tell him like, don't worry about doing this carnivore stuff. Eat what you got, eat what you can when you
Yeah.
can. But no, well, growing up around cattle ranching, I kind of always appreciated it. And by the way, my grandfather started that ranch when he came back from World War II, and he brought his family out from Kansas to Nevada and started ranching. But he had a philosophy that if you're gonna be a cattle rancher, you need to do something else because you might make a lot of money for a few years, but then you might have a drought for five. And if you don't have another source of income, you're doing the wrong thing, and your ranch will die. And in fact, he fired me when I think I was 20, and I said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to come out here and ranch, Bampa." And he said, "Well, that's it. You're fired, and you're always welcome back, but you'll never make another dime off this ranch until you learn how to support it." And he was great. He always let me come back. I was always welcome, but I never made money and as an employee again. And he kind of tried to instill that in my. So he never lived out there. My father's never lived out there, and I've never lived out there. But I have built a house out there, as my dad has, and we try to spend a lot of time there. But we also try to get other sources of income. So anyway, I always liked the cattle business. I always liked beef. I always tried to support it. And but it really was about 2017. I was listening to Joe Rogan, and he talked about going carnivore, and I had never heard of it before. And I said, that's interesting. And I'm kind of a geek and a fitness geek. And I wrote my master's thesis on human performance when I was at the Naval Postgraduate School, and I kind of like that stuff. And so I started researching this carnivore thing, and like, wow, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And it seemed like a bold jump, and I didn't know if I wanted to do it. And then I got COVID in February of 2021, and I just retired. I retired January of 21, and I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to put my money where the mouth is. I got to go do this isolation nonsense anyway and lock myself up. So why not just get a little discipline and try this out? And I did not have a bad COVID experience. We were still playing the isolation game, but I've had pimples much worse. But I locked myself in a room for 10 days and went carnivore. And I had the initial funk that a lot of people talk about, the kind of mental fog as you're moving carbs out of your diet, and I don't totally avoid them now, but I do operate in ketosis primarily, and I like it. I think it sucks not having pizza, but I can't have bread; it'll give me crazy GI issues, and so I wiped it out, and I feel better. And like you're saying, like you have some simple things that you eat, and I do too. And my tastes have changed to where now that's really mostly all I want is beef. I don't really like chicken that much anymore. I'll eat it, but I don't really like it. Like cheese, but I like eating beef.
Yeah. I I do 2 pounds of ground beef, 2 cups of rice, and put some salt on there, and that's like, now it's a delicacy. I'm like, this is delicious. Have you had any of this? It's so good. But I can definitely tell if I run out, and then I throw some store-bought ground beef in there, I think this tastes like cardboard. I just put some more salt on it, but it's still, you can't out salt the shitty meat. Um, and then you look into how many cows are in one 2 pound package of ground beef. It's like 100 different animals are in there.
I have no idea. I will tell you this: I've shifted some of my diet into I like the ancestral stuff, and I read a lot about this stuff and kind of get into it. But you know, we used to give a lot of the pure beef, whether it was from a bison, elk, deer, and I'm talking we as in the human species, to the dogs, and we chose the organs. And I've been looking a lot at organ meat stuff, and primary place you can get organ meat is hot dogs. And I've increased my hot dog intake, and I don't really necessarily like them that much, but I'm trying to get more of what my body historically has wanted. And so, and I had a great line by my friend Jake. He said, "Hey, you want to cure diabetes? You can do it with packs of hot dogs at the grocery store." And I think that's right. Knock the sugar out and start just eating meat, and you'll cure your diabetes.
Oh, okay. Um, are we talking like Oscar Mayer? Or are we talking like Ballpark Franks or like specialty ones, or what are we talking
Tried to
about?
buy the no hormones, no antibiotics, all the same area. But you just go through the packaging and you look at the back, you see if they've got some crazy stuff put in it. And the Tyson mass produced crap is probably less desirable than the organic what you get from whatever. And they're different brands in whatever supermarket you like to frequent.
All horrifying. The process of making of all of them, even if I guess, imagine even the healthy ones are horrifying. You watch that episode of how it's made,
Yeah.
and the liquid meat goo that's shot into the 200-meter long casing, and um, I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna pass on that one. But if I get hard up for some meats, I guess I'll have a brat because I'm in Wisconsin, and man, they're fucking delicious.
You get and I'm talking those kind of more natural sausages. I'm not talking
Okay.
not talking the pink stuff, but but I am talking. I'm not making an advocacy for eating that. My advocacy is like if you eat sausage, you're normally getting a lot more parts of the animal you wouldn't normally get.
Yeah. Okay. Um, yeah. Wisconsin. We do enjoy our bratwurst up here in Wisconsin. I tell people you get one at the border, and if you didn't get one, go back and wait in Illinois and stay there. But is this what caused you to write a book saying how the cow can fix literally all of our problems in life?
That was definitely the catalyst for it, pun intended. But really it was more my wife. She looked at her mom died suddenly about 12, 15 years ago, and a lot of that is probably attributed to her habits and her diet. And she died of a sudden cancer, and then she probably had some arsenic going on in her house. But then so that affected my wife, and then also she started. Her father is diagnosed with Parkinson's, and he fell down on a tennis court some 5 years ago, just collapsed, and it turned out that he had uh, stage 2 diabetes. He'd never really been to the doctor. He was an entrepreneur, and he had some bad health problems. And she's an engineer, so she tried to start fixing it. And she's looking at his diet, and his diet was all jacked up. She started reading a bunch of Paul Saladino and other folks that are really into keto, and then running the Keto Institute out at Duke and doing different things. And she just really wanted to start doing research. And I'd kind of had some ideas about, hey, we need to revamp the cattle industry, and we need to do this and that. So we were doing a bunch of road trips last year, and I got invited to be a beef taste tester at this thing called the Beef Roundup in Riverton, Wyoming, which, oh, by the way, is August 23rd and 24th this year, and I'm going back as a beef taste tester again. Happy to do so. And it's for
It
like a
sounds
beef.
like a
Uh,
great job.
Super, super cool. Especially when it's expense paid. So super cool. And went out there. But anyway, we did this big road trip across the United States, and pretty much I kind of helped organize and threw some military mindset in there of how we organize everything. And she really did a lot of the book, and really looking at how do I help my family and those around me. And it's really more her voice going through it. You might be able to see some organizational structure that you would have seen in a isolation phase of some Green Beret training or planning, but that I added. But she really kind of was the impetus for getting it to try to help her dad. And he did cure his diabetes. He still has his Parkinson's, and it's declining. We're trying to look for answers, but I think there's so much in nutrition that is really affecting us. And a great example is animals. We feed animals all this kibble, our cats and dogs, and golden retrievers were living up to 25 years just 100 years ago. Now they're lucky if they're living 12, and our animals are dying quickly, and we are too. And there's a great doctor. I can't remember his name, but I'm gonna just I can grab his name maybe, but he says the human body is designed to live 125 years. And I don't know how true that is, but I was listening to him speak, and well, that's pretty cool. But we're poisoning ourselves, and we're looking now. We have the first generation that is their parents will live longer than them in the United States, and to get on board with the Maha movement, I think that there really is something there. I think we're poisoning ourselves, and I believe that a good wholesome meat-based diet is a very good solution for most people.
Yeah. I astounded my doctor when I asked her to do my blood work. I said, "Hey, can you run my blood work?" And she's like, "Why?" She asked why. I said, "Oh, I switched my diet. It's at that time only meat. I was testing it out, much like you did." I said, you can't believe anything on the internet because there was 100 million search results that said it doesn't do anything, it's bad for you, and then 100 in equal amount that said it's good for you and it will help you out. So I said, okay, we're gonna do a case study, one individual, and we're gonna test it out. So that's what I did. And she called me up. She said, "Yep, I don't believe it, but your blood work is perfect, as good as it can get." And I said, "Oh, listen to the voicemail." I saved it. It's like I'm going to listen to that one again later. But unbelievable when you start eliminating all these other things that are making you feel like shit, and then get back into the gym and start putting muscle on. That's the big one. Is as we get older, who's that? Peter Attia. He's big on the sarcopenia, the muscle atrophy in that as we get older. So we got to put on muscle so that we can retain it longer, and things like that. And that's really at 40, I think we pretty much throw that out the window and we go, we don't need that anymore. Hey man, you got like 80 years left here, or 40
Hmm.
years left here. You might want to keep doing that. They go, no, we're not going to do that. And now, nothing against the people at the YMCA, but I'm going to go to the Y and I'm going to stand up there on the balcony and they're going to be down there doing their classes and they can barely do the movements of these classes with no weights and everything. I was like, man, you should have been up here, or you still should be up here, guys, doing this
Hmm.
stuff. And then like, no, we can't do that. We've become averse to the things that work. Why is that? How did it get to the point where we have thrown out the things that work for stuff that obviously doesn't work, but we're convinced that it still does? How did we get to this point?
That's such a good question. I'm 52 years old, and I like being able to still run a sub 7 minute mile. I like being able to lift 300 pounds above my head. I like being able to deadlift 3 times my body weight. I like being able to bench over 300 pounds. And I won't always be able to, but the day I quit doing it is the day that I'm done doing it.
How much do you weigh?
About 175.
Oh, okay. It's
I'm
like
not.
one
I'm not
seventy
a big
three.
guy.
You can clean three. You can clean three or jerk 300 pounds.
I cannot jerk. I can push.
Push press.
Push.
That's
Yeah.
still
What?
that's still fucking pretty good. I'm 240 and I can push through as 300 pounds.
There's
So
no
that's
way I could
fucking
clean
great.
it. There's no way I can clean and jerk it. But
Oh, I can clean it. Yeah, I can for 100% clean it. Yeah. I think my clean probably, if I could get form, my clean would be close to 400 pounds. But I have fucking no, no, it's all gone. I stopped doing CrossFit and my form went out like gone. I don't practice anymore. Um,
I still
but
do. But I also like beyond those Olympic lifts. I like things like farmers carry. How far can you carry this heavy crap? I like things
absolutely.
and I work on push press because how much can I sustain above my body? It may be awkward,
I've
but I
been
think it's a valuable skill to have shit above your body.
I've been doing inverted farmers carries, so just 20s or
It's great.
25s, and then walking the
Mhm.
track at the Y. And man, it's the weakest part of my game is above my shoulder, so I started been working on them. And I say weakest for me. I'm sure it's strongest to other people, but there's a lot more people way stronger than me. And I've just been walking with 20s, and man, I'm starting to feel like a little more. Um, I don't know, strength or a little more solid in there. So more to
Good
follow
Lord.
on that for my listeners. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Do you try you take like a kettlebell, like just a 10 or 15 pound, put it above, and you got to work that stabilization.
we're
It
just
and
we're
that's a
starting
good
out
one.
low
Wow.
right now, but we're in the development phase. For years I neglected my grip, so we're getting back to heavy um, farmers walks, and we're going to build up to. I want to eventually. I'm working towards. I want to run a mile with 45s without setting them down. That's what I'm working towards. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but that's what I'm working toward.
Yeah, my run time right now in Florida is slow because it is hot and humid, and it definitely impacts me. And I don't, and at my age, I want to just keep going. I like challenging myself. I like trying to improve, but at the end of the day, the real goal is keep going.
Absolutely, and but I think we got off a little bit on the.
Squirrel.
No, we're fine. I just kind of didn't want to because we started getting off, and we can get into weather and fitness. I could talk about fitness all fucking day
They
long.
do.
Um, um, and really, again, the biggest thing again was stopping drinking. No, at a certain point in your life, and we saw this in the Q course, you could just fucking party all weekend and then still come in and either go to your classes and pass. At least I could, and your guys, and we would just we went through the course and we were fine. And now, oh my God, if you're having 3 drinks a week, you all of the working out and eating good and everything is just fighting against those 3 drinks a week that you're having because your recovery is so much less than it used to be. And so that's probably the biggest thing. But man, I could talk about this stuff all day long. But it really, if the replacement for, I don't know, being SF or being happy is like, that's what has driven me, especially with my injuries, pushed me towards health and fitness. So that's where I'm at.
I still like the cocktails, but I know I'd be better without them. But I live in a great live music town, and there's a lot of Green Berets here and a lot of fun guys that I like to have a little bit of whiskey with here and there.
That's fine too. I got to go hang out with I guess they're an ODA, a training detachment up in Fort McCoy. I was up with them for their SSRE. And we all went out and they're like, "You having something?" I'm like, "Nah." And they were like, "That's it." They're just, I told them why, and they're like, "That's cool, man. Fuck yeah." And I said, unfortunately, I said to them, unfortunately, some of you guys are going to get to the same place I am. You just don't know it yet. Um, and that'll be fine too. Hopefully, you recognize it a lot sooner than I did. Um, and don't have to make some of the same mistakes. But on the Illistus side, it's everybody gets there in some way. It could be a short amount of time. It could be a long period of time. And that's just kind of how it is. At least from the people from my era and earlier on the enlisted guys side. It's a terrible price that a lot of the guys have had to pay. Mine was on the injury side. A lot of guys is more combat and things like that. So, but whatever, man. It's the kind of part of the gig. So, but we were talking about your book,
Mm-hmm.
and it was because of those two things, and your wife really starts breaking things down. But what else? Because that can't be just, that's got to be part of the book. But what else? Because you said pharma in there too. Like, is this like a before? Is this like a systemic issue, and you guys are just like, why
Yeah,
are we ignoring the blatant solution?
yeah. The real spark that lit this off was my wife's. Well, I'd say two things: my love of health and fitness, and kind of just being a geek about it, and her love for her family and wanting to fix some of the problems she saw around her. And so that those two things kind of came together. But I've long been of the mind that that pharma is pharma is out there, and also big ag and big food. They're out there pushing products to make money. No, duh, of course, but I don't know that they always have our best interests in mind. And I don't want to poo-poo the entire medical institution, because there's a lot of great things out of there. We cured polio, we did a bunch of great stuff. You get a leg broke, which I broke a leg 2 years ago and got fixed pretty well, and I got some metal and I'm running again, and it's great. And so there's some awesome advances, but there's also Just you know, our species has been around about 2.5 million years, and we haven't been taking a bunch of pills for more than about 100. And we reportedly were a lot healthier back in the day without all these new crazy Western ailments. And so, what is it? And I just don't think all these meds are the answer. And I think a lot of them are causing more problems than what they are. And so we really look at, and we looked at a lot of things of agricultural land of what they're doing with the monocropping and how it just kills everything, animals, insecticide, and all these crops, to include grass and grain that cows eat as well. But a lot of these crops that are just sprayed with billions with a B, gallons of glyphosate every year, and they're genetically engineered to survive these things, but only the one monocrop that's there. So the monocrop that's good for the glyphosate and herbicides that we're putting on corn would probably kill a lot of the wheat, and vice versa, and all these other soy and all these mass amounts of genetically engineered things that were done in large part to fight food insecurity. These huge amounts of monocrops, wheat and what have you. But it's had a lot of second and third order effects where we modified the DNA to increase yield, and the DNA modifies differently in plants to where it just adds to it, and you're just stacking problems and unknown variables on top of unknown variables, and you're looking around us in our society, and everyone's getting immensely sicker. And I think that's part of the food and pharma and the whole big mess. And though, so then to kind of tie this together, what we see as a solution is we need these things to just be natural, like it was regenerative agriculture, where you had corn growing with the cows or ruminant animals that are we had 300 million bison running around this country, just a few hundred years ago, and they're almost all gone. And now I wouldn't advocate that we needed to get rid of the bison, but it's kind of a nice scenario now where we don't have huge thousand bison herds running through our towns. That would be kind of catastrophic to the way we know life it is. But what we do have, which are a lot easier to control, are cattle. And they can do pretty much the same thing by churning over the soil, by peeing and pooping in the right places, which provides natural fertilizer, by working with an ecosystem where you can have bunnies, ducks, rabbits, all sorts of corn, wheat, naturally growing perennial wheats, and other things where it can kind of coexist. But now we have all these monocrops and all these things that, in my opinion, are leading us down a very unhealthy line. And I tried to kind of summarize that and made it almost sound like a mess, but that's kind of what we go into in the cow is how.
The but I thought the cow farts were poking holes in the ozone layer or something like that, aren't they?
That that is, that argument. That argument. I can't believe that has gotten so much attention because it's
Because
a
it's funny.
it's a nonsense. You're going to tell me that cattle, which we have less of than we had bison 200 years ago, you're going to tell me that they're somehow worse? And then the measurements that they take are largely from current feedlots, which aren't necessarily a great, wonderful, healthy thing we should be proud of. It's what the system is, but it's got its own problems, and I don't necessarily want to applaud it, but it is what the current system is. But that represents a small, I'll call it 10% of that ruminant animal's life. So the rest of the time, they're generally out on grass and pasture, which there's a natural sequestration. Is the way that you reduce. We like to talk about carbon impact, and by the way, it's methane through their burps, and it's not carbon. And methane has a significantly shorter lifespan in the atmosphere. It's more toxic, but it's out quicker. Where carbon will last a long, 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 long time in the atmosphere, creating ozone problems. But we like to talk about what creates it, but we don't talk about what fixes it. And what fixes it is sequestration through grasses. And grasses actually sequester more carbon than trees. Their roots in the grasses, when we had the Great Plains, and we talk about this in the book, in the days of the Great Plains prior to the Homestead Act of 1862, you had people going out there and building houses with bricks because the roots would go down so thick and so deep. But then we started tilling the land, we started cropping, and now you have the Dust Bowl because those soils were gone and eroded. And we have that aquifer, which is one of the largest aquifers in the world, and now it's just drying up with all these monocrop things, and you're not sequestering carbon because you're not putting in natural grasses, you're not putting in things that bring that carbon back into the earth and make it healthier. But I can go on and on and on about that, but I did write a book
Oh,
about it.
I'm sure you could. I was driving yesterday and I think Rogan had somebody on and they were saying something kind of the same way, right? And I had thought, I said, it feels like with people I talk to when we talk about fitness or health or things like this, even technology, it feels like 99% of the population is being dragged into a direction that they don't want to go, but they're going to go anyway because that's just the way. I don't know. I don't want to say evolution, but growth is. Business is taking us, and technology and everything. And I start hearing about some of the stuff with AI. I'm like, what the fuck do I need that for? Like to be happy? Why do I need that to be happy with life going forward? Like I'm happy now. Why do we have to keep fucking with shit? Um, and that's a bigger question, like need and want. Okay, we want to do this to what end, right? To what end? To explore other planets? Okay, that makes sense. To fucking make stupid videos online? I don't know. To end the need for people to work? Well, that's great, but then now people lose their purpose and things like that. How difficult? Because you said, there's big ag, big pharma, tech, all these. These are incredibly powerful entities.
Mhm.
Do you see the feasibility of any of these things happening at a macro level, or is this only possible at a large scale micro level with small farms doing things independently like yours? Because a large farm that their entire payroll depends on Purdue. I don't know. I just picked one, right? I don't know the beef ones, but I'm sure they influenced my thoughts when I was younger. Uh, but your entire paycheck depends on Purdue, and if Purdue says you're going to do something, you're going to do it. How can these big farms make any changes when their whole life is dependent on one customer or
That's a
one
great question.
continuing?
I do think there's a there, and I'm not necessarily a big run around and red hat Maha bandwagon guy, but I do like what I see with the Make America Healthy Again movement and RFK, and I think there's a lot of good initiatives that I think will happen there, and to tweak the industry to where you can get some small changes, and you can just read the latest policies to kind of dive into that stuff. But I'll give you a good example that will be which is, most people are unexpected to hear, that where there is some larger scale change in a very good way, and it's Walmart, and a lot of people are very surprised by that. And what Walmart and the sad truth is, for someone really to make a good change, it kind of has to be someone like Walmart that has the resources to do it. And what they've done is they've created three separate organizations to where they are cutting out the four major what they call the big four of the beef producers in the food empires, which are National Beef, foreign owned by Brazil, Cargill, Tyson, and I'm missing one. Regardless, there's four big companies, all of them, and they control over 80% of the beef industry. And I guarantee that most of those, I haven't seen their paychecks, but I think most of those board members are probably making nice little salaries, driving nice little cars to their fancy buildings. It's a guess, but whereas there's a lot of producers out there barely feeding their families, and so that's an assertion I'm making. But I think I'm right. And anyway, Walmart cut out the big four and they created their own thing. What they do is they purchase cattle. And I learned about all this because they purchased a few truckloads of our cattle a few years ago. And they buy under this area called Prime Pursuits. Then they work within this conglomerate of what they call 44 farms, where they work with different producers and they ensure the quality at a very high level, but with a lot of cattle. And then they cut out the big feedlots and they run their own system and they sell under what's called McLaren Farms. Now, even with Walmart, they were able to subdivide, or they were able to subvert those big four producers and the big four beef packers to a degree, but they're only available in about 800 stores, and they sell under McLaren Farms. Most of the beef you will see in Walmart is the regular packaged whatever, but because they got an internal system, they're able to keep the prices not only competitive but lower than a lot of the major production choice or prime beef, and it's a higher quality. It's pretty darn close to farm to table kind of quality, and I buy it because it's in the southeast primarily, and we have a Walmart about 20 minutes from my house where they have McLaren Farms beef products, and it is noticeable, and they sell out quickly because a few folks know what it is. But there's an example of a good solution done by Walmart.
Unexpected, but
Yeah,
it makes
most
sense
people were surprised.
because I believe Costco did the same thing a few years ago when they couldn't keep their chickens at $4 for the roasted chicken or something like that. So they bought the chicken industry to some extent or made their own and completely cut everybody else out. And so Costco is one of the largest producers of chickens in the country or something like that because they had to keep their chickens below a price point so the rotisserie chicken price wouldn't change. I think they did that a few years ago.
Yeah, I think
So
it's
same
cool.
thing.
Yeah, you're also seeing
That's got
some co-ops stand up, which are another good potential solution to where, a bunch of smaller ranches and farms can get together and go, all right, let's sell our products and work it together. And now they're carrying more leverage. But that's hard to do
that's a big
because, like, hey,
checkbook.
my
Like,
cattle don't get antibiotics. Well, mine do. And then you're going to have all this kind of, you know, difficult scenarios because not there's no two cattle operations that are the same. So it's kind of that's a hard business to mold.
and that's a lot of decisions, big decisions to make with a big checkbook. Like, okay,
Yep.
here's the problem. Let's just throw money at it until we fix it. You got to have a lot of money to do that. So, well, good on them. Hopefully, it makes some lasting changes, and we all get healthier, and everybody's going to be happy and be living to 120, and then society will collapse because we can't keep up with that many people being alive for that long and that healthy. So, or
Yeah, it'd
I
be
don't know.
interesting. Right now, we're declining. All
Yeah,
Western populations are declining, and I go to CattleCon every year, and we address the National Cattlemen's Beef Association big conference every year. And one of the problems that they're looking at is food supply and how do you do this as a commodity supplier? And our population is declining significantly to where we're not going to have enough people to fill the houses in 30 years in the United States. We're decreasing rapidly. As soon as the baby boomers are gone, it's going to be kind of scary, and people aren't having kids, and people are staying single, and it's a problem in Western cultures. In a lot of we're looking at, I think we're at a 1.4% growth rate of, and you need it to be, or one was it one just under 1.5 humans are coming in for every two. In other words, mom and dad are having 1.4 kids. And so I didn't say that exactly right, but I think you get the idea. Where in a lot of the third world countries in Africa, for whatever reason, it's like 3.4. It's like tons of kids. So you have a lot of third world countries rapidly increasing in population. You have the Western world rapidly decreasing. So we're going to see some interesting global shifts in some strange areas in the near future.
yeah. It, things are going to change. They always do. Luckily, I'll be dead. So hopefully somebody listen to this one day. They can look back and go, ah, he had it right. Just fucking die. And you don't have to worry about it.
Just die.
So, hey, there's a lot of things I can't influence. I can't change. And I don't worry about them at all. Like there's nothing I can do except for me, my dogs, and my wife. We just hang out, and hopefully, we can just have a good time while we're here. And yeah, now a lot of information there. We got a little off track on the cow subject, but it seems like you didn't want to serve coffee. I've heard that from a few people. If you're a light colonel or colonel and you kind of get stuck at the Pentagon, you're serving 4 stars that treat you like shit coffee. That's a real thing then?
I think so. Yeah, I remember
Okay.
when I was going through the Q course, there's a section where they take all the cherry captains up and you go run around the Pentagon and meet various people and things. And at the time, I have a good family friend. He's still a very good friend. He's a business partner now as well, but a good family friend who was a 2 star Air Force officer, and he was at the time he was I think it was something to do with Air Force Guard or Reserve. He was a full time job, but he has something to do with the Pentagon where he oversaw some important Air Force Guard or Reserve programs. But he went to kindergarten with my mom. I've known him my whole life, and he's like, Kevin, get a couple of your buddies and come up here, and we're in suits and stuff. And there were full bird colonels serving us coffee. That always just stuck with me. And I thought, God, that sucks. I'm like, I don't want to do
Yeah.
that.
That sounds terrible. Where you're in command at a brigade and then all of a sudden you got a 4 star treating you like shit. So
Yeah, I don't know. And the officer thing is full of a lot. You got to sit in. They don't call you an officer for no reason. You got to sit in an office a lot. And one of the things I'm very proud of is I was operational my entire career. Now, is a Group S3 that operational? No, but you're still part of an operational unit, and they're assigning you a gun. And I spent 20 years straight on airborne status, and I'm glad I did that. And I avoided a lot of that nonsense. I got to stay operational for the majority of my career and was issued a gun in every assignment. And that to me is something I take a little pride in.
yeah, how long were you? As long as you're on jump pay, I guess And there's no, sorry, you got to jump this month, or at least here, fill this form out, allegedly. So you got out. You created your own set of stress because we got 20 some years of being stressed out with Ranger Battalion group, and then the 82nd, which is also in its own way stressful,
That
I
was the
assume.
most stressful.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. That's what I've heard. Because I've gotten some backlash in some of the comments where people are like, "Oh, come to the 82nd." I'm like, "No, fuck that." But
I didn't like
so you
it.
get out. You didn't like it.
They spoke a different language. I didn't know what they were talking about. I was lots of hut hut hut. I was sitting when I got there. I was the battalion commander. My XO came from range 19. My CSM came from a certain unit in Virginia, and my S3 was a cavalry officer. And so we were sitting there listening to all this stuff, and I'm all, do you guys know what they said? And they go, no. I'm all, we thought you did. Sir. I was like, I have no idea what they said. Talking about all these different airborne kind of things, but
Oh yeah, it's not the same. We don't
different
know.
language.
No, that's the way how it is, right? I said to somebody, your first unit, if you stay in there, you think it's going to be the greatest unit that there ever was until you leave and you go, hey, they were lying to us, or this unit sucks and they were great, and you start moving around and you start seeing everywhere. But man, if you stay in the 82nd the whole time, just like anywhere else in the country, you're going to sound different than other places in the country. You're going to have a different accent. People are going to say, well, I don't know what the fuck that means. So that is pretty funny. That it's a different. We're in the same army, but we're not in the same army. But
No, yeah.
I don't know. Did you go ROTC or did you just decide to go to college and then enlist to get rid of your college debt? How did the whole army career come about?
It was kind of a strange story. So I took a I was kind of I didn't know what I really wanted to do in college, and I was a professional ski instructor. I really liked being in the mountains, really liked being outside, liked hunting in the fall, and I liked skiing in the winter, and liked doing water skiing in the summer. And no, my dad was an attorney, and that didn't seem very fun to me. I thought, I don't like solving my own problems, and an attorney basically takes problems when someone goes, "This is too much problems for me. Here's thousands of dollars and a stack of problem. Please solve it." And my God, that sounds awful. I don't want to do that. And so I didn't know. So I took a map reading class, an ROTC map reading class, and it was kind of cool. As we ran around the woods and just then learned how to read, just basically the same. It was a slowed down version of what they give you in SUT or any other military school for just reading a map, and it was fun. I enjoyed it. And they have all the airborne pictures and stuff on the wall and all the stuff in the little classroom. And so I thought that's pretty cool. And I was a long hair ski guy at the time and ponytail. I remember telling one of the tacks, or I think he was an E7, but I didn't even know how to recognize anything at the time. So I said, "Hey, I want to go jump out of planes. I want to jump out of planes." And he gave me the recruiting spiel. And you need to do this, you need to do that. Why don't you consider? We hope you enroll in ROTC, get involved, blah blah blah. Come to this FTX we got at the weekend. They gave you all this stuff, and they also had like their little PT events, and then they had a APF team. And I don't remember really how they described it to me, but I said to this, I'm going to assume he was an E7. I'm not sure. And I said, well, hey, well, if I win, will you send me to jump out of planes? And he laughed. Ha ha ha. There's no winner. It's a score. I'm, well, there's a top score, right? And I'm also, well, you send me to jump out of planes. And he said, well, you just come and we'll see how you do. Well, not only was I skiing a lot, but I was also, I was on the boxing team, but they have guys that were fighting and guys that I was the one under. The guy that I fought 172s, and the guy that was there's a Gloves guy that actually fought. So I was a sparring guy. So when I was on the team, it was kind of fun, but I was in good shape. And so I go to this APFT, and I got the highest score. And I was over 300 on the extended scale, and so the battalion commander came up to me, or I don't think they called him PMS at the time, but anyway, he comes up, he shakes my hand, and what are you doing? I'm, well, he said that if I came here and won, I'd get to go to airborne school. So the battalion commander kind of wrote, his voice went up and said, "Get over here." And he starts, "We're going to make promises. We're going to keep them." And next thing I know, I got a slot to airborne school, and I've never stood at attention. And so I went. I didn't know, I was totally screwed up. Was running into everybody. Ended up passing and doing fine, and then came back. And I thought that was pretty fun. And then the ROTC met me, and then, "Oh, congratulations, got your airborne wings. You're the only one that made it from this year." And okay, this is great. Well, that was fun. They're all, "So you're doing ROTC?" I'm like, "No, no, I didn't. No, I'm not. But thank you. That was fun." And so then I just kind of put it in my back of my hat. Went to airborne school basically as a civilian, and then went on with my life and started really kind of debating things a little bit longer. And I thought, I don't know, maybe that army thing was pretty cool. So about 2 years later, I went and rose my right hand, and I enlisted in the National Guard, and that was pretty cool. And I really liked that. And that was fun. And and then and then and then I decided, well, you know what? I think I will do that ROTC. So I went and joined ROTC, and then became a cadet in the National Guard. So they paid me as an E5, and I wore a silly little diamond on my hat, and most people didn't even know what I was, and got to be like a third lieutenant, and that was fun. And I really liked it, really enjoyed it. I had a great unit. I'm part of the 11th ACR. It was in the Nevada National Guard, and we would fly down to Fort Irwin and be part of the 11th ACR for our annual training for the big rotations of the 82nd or 101st. We'd be an additional Op 4 squad, and it was just awesome. It was a fun thing. I knew nothing about logger sites and all the challenges of that, what you have to do to set it up, because we basically just flew in and played Op 4 and didn't do any of that hard work that you have to do active duty. But then graduated, got out of the National Guard and went active duty, and so I kind of tripped and stumbled into it. It was really started with that airborne school thing that built the taste in my mouth, wondering what I wanted to do, and then saying, "You know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this." But I was really uncommitted, and I turned down all the grants, and I turned down a lot because at the time I really wanted to go be a heliski guide in Alaska or something. And I thought, I don't know if I really want to do this. I don't know. So I turned everything down, and I signed up for I did the minimum, which was 3 years active duty, but I liked it, and I stayed.
You went to airborne school as a civilian?
Pretty much. I was a
What'd you
cadet.
wear?
That's another funny story, because I didn't know shit about wearing anything. I never put on a uniform before I went to airborne school. And so I didn't know how to put it on right. I wore it wrong. I didn't know how to stand at attention right. I was totally screwed up. And I wore BDUs, but they put our school patch, which was this wolf in the shape of Nevada, on this shoulder, and that's what they wore. And I had no idea what that meant. And so they're like, "What unit did you go to combat with? What unit did you go to combat with?" And I'm like, I had no idea how to answer. I had no idea what I was doing. In fact, I was so screwed up. They got me this little ID card, said cadet, and they said, "If you want to go, you're like an officer, so you can use the BOQs." They're trying to build me up on, "Hey, you can go to these BOQs and stay there for the weekend. It's gonna be great." I'm, "Okay, cool." And so you're like an officer, but you don't have a commission. All right. So they were yelling, and they said, "All right, all NCOs come over here." And I'm all, "What's an NCO?" And all, "It's a non-commissioned officer." Oh, that's like me. So stupid little cadet, I went over, stood behind, and someone helped me out. They're like, "What are you doing here?" I'm, well, I am not a commissioned officer. Get out of here. So I was able to navigate and not have to do a bunch of push-ups. But I was completely screwed up. I got to go see the first sergeant. I didn't know how to report. I told him my story. I said, "Oh, look, I'll grab his." Yeah, he was. They called me in to report a series of times. I couldn't do it right, and I came in and I just said, "Look, can I be frank?" And he laughed. He sat back, put his feet up on the desk, said, "All right, Frank. Well, here's what happened. I was in the map reading class. I told him a little story I told you, and then he's all, so you have 2 days to get yourself squared away." And there was this Marine, Kevin Cooney, great guy. And he worked with me, helped me do steps. He told me how to shine my boots, and he hipped me up, and that set me up for barely success. I was still running into people and couldn't march right. About face was a nightmare. But there you have it.
What the fuck?
Yeah, totally fucked up. I was as fucked up as I wanted to be, and then some.
That's that's hard to believe. Really. What year was this?
94. In fact, it was
Okay.
always a
Oh
pain in
my
the ass.
God.
It was always a pain in the ass for my unit because I they gave me here's my certificate, here's all this stuff. I'm like, okay, great. I lost it like right away, so I had to write to the school and get an official paper that is documented by the school that says I graduated in '94 and here's the records that I always had to put in my jump log because I was a civilian. I didn't give a shit. Like, here's a bunch of weird military papers. Like, all right, great, sounds fun.
Can't imagine what that first sergeant was thinking. Uh, just how do we get rid of this guy? This oh, he must have been having an aneurysm all the time. Just see, or the black hats must have because in the '90s, um, they're pretty serious. They're pretty serious at airborne school. Not like today. It's not the serious thing that it used to be. They're very serious back then.
They were serious, but and also I was screwed up, but I wasn't a punk. I was trying my best. And I did not like it. I did not like being as fucked up as I wanted to be. I wanted to do it right. My attitude was right. My knowledge and skill set were completely not.
That's an interesting path. It's not the most no, that's not the craziest one we've had to get into the service. I've interviewed some guys on here. I'm like, man, you told me the whole story. I still don't know how you got in the army, but that's something that's interesting. Probably won't be topped. Going to civilian is a fuck. Going to airborne is a fucked up civilian. All right, so now you do your 3 years active duty. How does that fall against 9/11?
So I was in second range battalion during 9/11. So I spent, I think, 7 months in the 25th ID in 1st Brigade when it was at Fort Lewis. And we were one of the first battalions. We were the second battalion to be designated to go striker. The first one was at a second brigade or second at a 2ID, and I forgot the brigade, but there was the first battalion getting all the strikers and all this crap. This is 2000, late 99, early 2000. As I finished OBC in 99, went to Ranger School, and then poof, 90, like fall of 99 or summer of 99, I ended up at Fort Lewis in 25th ID. And then I knew I wanted to go to Ranger Battalion. I was just trying to get there, but our battalion, it sucked. We had no resources because they were flooding all the resources and everything to the second ID battalion that was supposed to be the first striker battalion, and so we got nothing. We had we. I remember wanting to be back in Ranger School because we were like setting up platoon platoon bases and stuff, and we're pretending that you weren't looking at I-5 as you're setting up your sector stakes and stuff. And I'm like, this is I-5. This is stupid. And I really didn't like it. Our squads were down to like 5 people. There was no manning. There was no ammo. It was just like this. I was getting out. I was just like, this is garbage. This is playing army is dumb. I want to go back to the guard. That was fun. This is stupid. And then I went to battalion, and I got there in I think July of 2000. And next thing I know, I'm on a plane to Jordan, and then the USS Cole was bombed. We were in Jordan, and we were all shifted around because of trying to get the Navy guys out, and that was like, wow, it's real. And we had a Mon riots happen right before that, and I was like, wow, and there was no gunshots, there's no big hero stories or anything, but it just felt real. It felt like significant. It felt like we're really out doing something important for the nation, putting ourselves in the right places at the right time. And in fact, that was with Fifth Group. It was we were a platoon plus that went in and just to be part of Fifth Group Early Victor, which primarily Africa, but they had a contingent of the training mission going on in Jordan as well at Al Jafar Airfield, and setting up training stuff. It just got fun. And then as a lieutenant, you're lucky to get a year and a half to 2 years, and my year and a half was coming up, and then Twin Towers uh, got bombed, and I ended up being able to stay in battalion for about 4 years. Went to Afghanistan in February of '01 or '02, February of '02, and then I was in Iraq for the initial invasion right after that, and then finally went to the Q course. They let me pump my Q course state down and down and down. I don't think they'd do that today. I got pretty lucky as an O to stay in range of time for about 4 years and do a couple of initial invasions for. I wasn't on the invasion to Afghanistan, but I was on the first battalion deployment. 375 went initially into Rhino. 175 went over. I got there right as Roberts Ridge was happening, but we were just sitting in talks, listening to it, and then we came in as a full battalion and started expanding the footprint of the Ranger Regiment. But anyway, so that
Why'd you want to? No, you're good. Why did you want to go to Ranger Regiment? Because that's a big leap from land nav class or map reading class to Ranger Regiment. I think that's a pretty big gap there. So what
well, it's
led you to that?
I never. If I was going to go in the military, I wanted to go do commando stuff. Period. I really I had zero interest in going into the regular military, but as you know, you kind of got to right away. And I think I preach a lot to my stepson who listened. I think there's a lot. I think you should really go enlisted first. And people ask me, "Were you prior service?" And I always say, "Kind of." Well, what the fuck does kind of mean? Well, kind of means I enlisted and I was enlisted and I never even went to AIT because I then transferred over into simultaneous membership program with ROTC, and then I never did my full 2 years, so I never got an O&E. So kind of raised my right hand. I wasn't E3, but I always say kind of. And anyway, but I had all the Ranger pictures on my wall. I had all the commando crap of the day. I loved watching all the movies of the day, and I was just inspired to go run around guns with like-minded people. In
You
fact, I
mean
always
you
wanted to
had the
go
right?
SF. In the Ranger Regiment, they try to kind of discourage that, but I'm like, no, I know I'm an O. This is going to be after even a captain. You're running around with 80 people. I want to go SF where I'm running around with another 11 guys. And that was
Yeah, and
in
that's what
that.
I've heard. It's more acceptable for the officers to go because you guys have to leave anyway. Uh,
Mhm.
they enlisted. You're in Ranger Regiment until you get RFS'd or you die, pretty much.
Yeah, that's a true statement. I wish it wasn't
Yeah.
true, but it, because Rangers make great Green Berets often, not always, but often.
No, not always, but the ones that were, at that I went through, they were studs. But there were some at selection, the 21-day non-selects, and just couldn't. I don't know, just couldn't be likable. Probably that was it. It just didn't fit into the team. Too rigid. They probably come back.
You need the DA mindset, but you also need to be able to set the DA mindset down if you're going to be a successful Green Beret and understand where diplomacy comes in and where maybe using some other resources available comes in, and where aggression and violence aren't always the answer, whereas in Ranger Regiment, it's always the answer.
My opinion, it keeps moving to less and less. I don't think you need anything except that you want to do it. And then you'll figure out a way to do it because people are like, "Oh, how'd you figure out land nav?" I said, "I just listened to the class they gave me." Um, I never, even I never did my job in the army. And when I was there as enlisted, I sat at a desk and was at S2. So PT was I just went and did my own thing. I'm starting to get to the point where for SF, I don't think you need fucking anything to get there and make it. You just have to want to do it.
Mhm.
But you don't specifically need any specific thing. As long as you want to do it, you'll figure out a way, especially with all the information out there. You can find out the standards. As much as they say the standards they kept under lock and key, they're out there. They're somewhere on the internet in some subreddit or anything like that. But the more I talk to people and the different perspectives and everybody's opinion, ways they got there and all these stories, I go, I don't think there's anything like you can nail down that you have to have. It's just if you want to do it, you'll find a way to do it.
I agree. I agree. The one advice like I gave my son because he wanted to go SF right away, and I'm like, you know what? Also, I told him go be a. My advice was, and people can disagree with it, and that's fine. I have a lot of loyalty personally to the SF regiment, but I told him like, go be a SEAL or go be a Ranger because SF takes a long time. And I told him, I guarantee you'll like the commando shit. I promise you'll like that. You may not like the Army shit. All the sitting down and filling out the compulsory forms, doing your EO training, and all this stuff. And the Army wears on people, and you got to move around and do different things and move different locations. And that's not always what people like, and that wears on a lot of people. I think more than just to grab your gun and go do some cool stuff at the range. That doesn't wear on guys too much. But and so I thought, I told him, I'm all, in 1 year, you join one of those organizations. It's going to take about 1 year, and you'll be running and gunning with the best. You'll also be in charge of the mop closet, and so get used to it. And you're going to be low man, but it'll take 1 year. SF, you're off the street 2.5 years, and then you show up. Now you're the new guy, and you're not bringing really anything other than yourself.
Has he got his Ranger tab yet?
No, he finished RASP in March. And then and they're already talking to him about like getting a class date, which is pretty quick. I don't know exactly how regiment's working now, but the quickest person I ever saw go was Pat Tillman, and he went in 4 months from 275, and that was that him and Kevin both I think went in about 4 months,
I
and
can see that.
that was the quick. Now this is over 20 years ago, but normally I was pretty proud of him when he said they're already asking him about, hey, you think you'd be ready for this course date? I'm like, that if they're asking in under 6 months, you're doing well.
Yeah. And they're full ranks too. It's not like they're hurting for people like we're
No.
lying about in SF. The command is saying we're full ranks, but we are. That is a fucking blatant lie. If
Mm-mm.
you're listening to this at home, everything that's coming out of uh, First Special Forces Command, as far as numbers and staffing, is not true at all. So, but not to undercut them, but you shouldn't be they shouldn't be like lying to us about it. So,
Yeah.
but
Ranger
Ranger
Regiment also
regiments,
gets to push their MTO numbers up to 125%, which they're a little stricter on SF, especially after they boosted all the ranks and LNO status during the war years and had to cut back on all that. And SF, sending two guys out of a platoon to a school is not that big a deal. Sending two guys out of an ODA to a school is a very big deal. You just lost a lot of firepower.
it is,
It's hard.
and we're losing. What did they say? My buddy said we're losing two Green Berets for every one we're making right now. So again,
Wow.
population collapse. That's one source, but it's loosely confirmed by other people on what they're telling me, especially with the guys they're telling me in group that say they're not going to re-up and things like that. So group is going to, from what I'm hearing, collapse at a certain point with some of
Mm.
the other stuff. But we'll see if they fix it by shrinking group and go down. But it sounds like we'll see over the next few months what's going to happen with that. But yeah, Ranger regiments. I mean, yeah, he'll get send him. Fucking, that's awesome, man. Go to Ranger school, suck there, get your tab. Maybe he won't ever want to leave.
Yeah,
And
and there's nothing, maybe he'll do as I told him, you do your 4 years and you think you got a better chance being a car salesman to find happiness. Great. Go, you did your time. You don't owe anything to anybody other than when you raised your right hand, you do your 4 years and then you do what you want to do, whether that's stay or, or go somewhere else. I personally have an opinion though. I think if you like doing commando stuff and you like being on the ground, my personal opinion of a great career path that I didn't take, but I sure would, I armchair quarterback my own decisions, which would be enlist, go to Ranger Battalion, look for around that magic time of right after your E6 time, where they're either going to send you over to some trade doc, make you be a recruiter, make you go to do basic training, be a drill sergeant, or you might be in the running for to get a platoon as a platoon sergeant. Go for the platoon sergeant if you can get that. If you can't, think about going to the Q course. Either way, do that somewhere around 8 years of your initial service. Then ideally do that platoon sergeant time. Now get out and go officer, whether it's green to gold or something like that. Go get you're a ranger platoon sergeant. Now go be an officer, and you'll come back and you're going to be assigned to whatever unit, and you're going to be a platoon leader, and you're going to have a shitload of clout having just been a ranger platoon sergeant. You're going to be running that platoon, and you're going to know how to do it very well, and you're probably going to know how to take care of people, and you're going to be taking care of your platoon sergeant and your squad leaders, and you're going to know how. You're going to be really good at it. Now go back to Ranger Battalion. Do that. Now go SF. You'll go SF. You'll be a team leader. You're pushing around 15 years now. but you need to get that 10-year time in as an officer, and now you can like wind down and go get your go. You become a major. You probably have to do some staff jobs somewhere around there, but you got to do some staff. You come back as a major, you get your company command time, and now find some cush job for another 2 or 3 years. Retire as a major. You did your 20 years, and you basically were with boots on the ground with the guys the entire time, never with more than 40 people. I think that would be an optimal career path if you like doing commando stuff, being with guys on the ground.
Doesn't sound too bad. Um, I've talked to a few guys that they hit that major and they went, yeah, 180 alpha for me, and they resigned that commission. They went back to a team.
I thought about it.
So
I thought hard about it. I was lucky enough to get 3 company commands, so and that was there's nothing like being on an ODA. So I don't want to say that was better. It wasn't, but it was fun. I did like being a company commander.
is that just because of the time that you were in that happened? Because there's been officer shortages throughout your service. Because it sounds like you went the global war on terror pretty hard for the majority of your service. Is that just because of the years that you were in, and that because that doesn't really happen?
No, I got lucky, and let me so I told you a true statement, but let me define it. My first company command was HSC. My second company command was HHC, the group headquarters company. So officially company commands, and then my third one was Alpha Company, First Battalion, Seventh Group. So I really did one tactical company. I had 2 others. So I legitimately say 3, but I'll quantify it. They were the headquarters, but they were also fun. Got my gun on. You know that the when I was HSC, I took on a role that I really had an issue as a team leader how they would drag the teams out of their combat role to do their own resupplies and stuff. I thought that was BS. So now retired out of a 2-star billet, CSM Joe Fancher. He was my first sergeant, and he and I really worked hard to build a resupply capability, and we went back to Afghanistan and we implemented it, and it was hard, but we definitely those young cooks and candlestick makers and bakers they got their gun on several occasions, and I was really proud of them. We did the whole Buckus thing with them, ran them through all the stuff, and all volunteer force, and we worked really hard with those guys, and they did, and I'm real proud to this day of what they did. So even though it's the headquarters and support company, we did some great things.
Okay. Did you say candlestick makers?
Yeah, I had odds and ends. You know, the HSC got
Okay.
all the odds and ends guys. What's a 38, 64, 21 alpha? I don't know. What do you do?
Fucking oh yeah.
Track the
So
typewriters. Okay.
you said it is frowned upon in Ranger Regiment to go. But were you out of regiment when you went to selection, or were
No,
you getting out of regiment? No, you were
I
still
was
in.
in, I was there.
Okay. So what kind of
In
shit
fact,
were
I
they
stayed
giving
there for
you
over
as an
2 years as
officer?
a captain. 'Cause we kept going to war. So like
Yeah.
stayed.
What kind of shit were they giving you as an officer for going to selection? Because I know what the enlisted guys get. They've either just gotten a DUI and they're getting kicked out and they go to selection, or they're like sneaking out and then they're coming back to staff duty.
It was not too I had really stayed there a long time, and they were really and I think that helped because normally as a lieutenant you're there about 18 to 24 months, and I was pushing 4 years, and I'd stayed there as a captain, and really kind of and it worked out in my opinion very well for me, but because I never had to do staff time as a captain in SF. I used up all my time, but there was a lot of concern, like, you're not supposed to do this with your career. You're not supposed to just hang out in a lieutenant job as a captain for 2 years. This is detrimental. You need to. So they were kind of like, okay, thanks for giving it your all, Kevin, but you might really want to consider advancing your career, or you're going to be stuck. And so they were not too harsh on me.
Okay. And then in the course, what was that like as a senior captain?
Great. It was if you came from Ranger Regiment and already had your Ranger tab, that did help. I think in most cases, there's not all, there's some jackasses out there that fuck things up, but that helped. I kind of took on they were so short in group that in the early thousands that a lot of our instructors through the Q course were fresh out of the Q course, and and it was just a lucky time, to be honest, to be a young officer in that period, because when I got to group, maybe a third of people had combat experience, and I had two tours already. And so I kind of got fortunate where I showed up as you're supposed to tease the new princess captain. They're supposed to get it hard, but I was one of the few guys when I showed up that actually had combat experience on my team. And then I had a great friend to this day, but I called him Pomp, product of no formal education. Great guy from Puerto Rico, love him to death, but doesn't always have the best wherewithal. Great Green Beret, but he shows up day one as an E7 and starts, and they're kind of looking at the team. I could tell they're kind of looking at, who's this new captain? How are we going to fuck with him? We're going to get this guy. And then he raised his hand and said, I really want to go warrant. And I don't know a lot about being a team guy at this time, but I know you don't say that. And so the whole team is just attention towards him, and I got it a little easier than I think most showing up to group. And I had a good time in the Q course as well. I thought it was of value to be coming from Marine. I understood assets. I understood spins. I understood things that were flying overhead. I understood how to request CAS. I understood how to request CCA. I knew how to work with it. I knew how to do load plans. I knew how to do all these things from being in Ranger Regiment that a lot of my peers just hadn't had experience with. And it doesn't mean that I was necessarily long-term best at it, but I'd seen it. I'd smelled it. I knew what it was. And I felt that was really helpful.
What year was this?
I got to group in '05.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you're pre. Not a lot of conventional units have done rotations, because I remember an SUT, and I don't remember any of our officers for Sage, but this was 2013, I think, or 11, 12, something like that. It doesn't matter. They all had been to combat, and they all had that stuff. So you're at the front side of things, and none of your peers have the same experience. So you
Very,
kind of stood out.
very few,
Okay.
which was helpful. Made life
Hey,
easier.
you got the beret and the tab, right? And went on to group to do great things. So what did you think of the Q course at that time?
A lot of people bitched about it. I thought it was I don't remember I didn't leave it with a super strong feeling, but I definitely left it with a positive feeling. I thought it gave a lot of great skills. I thought it was Robin Sage, in my opinion, was excellent. I thought that was a very awesome outside of the box exercise and encouraged outside of the box thinking. I really liked that. SUT was kind of like a JV Ranger school. Language school was monotonous and reminded me of high school, and I didn't like it, but I thought it was valuable. I thought it was a well-run program, and I know a lot of people like to bitch about it and disagree, and we let too many people in, or we don't let too many people in, or we do this wrong or this right. But I thought it was real well run, and I never worked in SWIC, so it's kind of hard for me to have a inside the wire opinion. But I appreciated the education I got out of it.
So you kind of like, we've just glossed over, 2005, 2009. So did you have a black beret then in Ranger Regiment?
I was there for the changing over of the black to tan. My rope
Okay.
graduation certificate says I am authorized to wear the black beret, but I
Okay.
left with the tan.
Left with a tan. So, you know, these are monumental things. You get handed a beret in Ranger Regiment, and then you get handed a green beret when you graduate the Q course. What do you think about those two things looking back now? Because that, I mean, to a normal person, that's pretty monumental. And we're just like, oh, yeah, normal things.
Well, at the time, it just seemed like this is what's happening. But now I'm pretty proud of it. I got asked to be as an example, I got asked to be a guest speaker at a Marine Corps ball almost 2 years ago now, and part of the speech that I gave, so I came out with my black beret, showed the maroon beret, showed the tan beret, and then I put on the green beret, and I talked about what different units mean and what different units are like, and I said it through all the units that I've been in the Army. One of the constants is I've loved serving with Marines, and which is very true. I love the Marine Corps very much. The Army birthday sucks. it's not that fun. I mean, this year we did a big one with 250. That's pretty cool and applaud. And I do have homage to the Army, but the Marine Corps birthday is fucking awesome. It is all sorts of cake stands and wild behavior and a bunch of wild guys and I love the Marines. Proud to be who I am, but I do have a lot of appreciation for the Marine Corps and always have.
Did you work with them a lot downrange?
Sometimes, yeah. And they always had shit ass long M16s and in the early days, and they had crap equipment and they had the best attitude of they're gonna get it done no matter what. They were awesome.
They I see that in the comments too. Man, they show up in droves. If something, and it wasn't even anything about Marines. I put up this one reel. This guy had said something about Rangers and how if the SEALs are in trouble, they call Rangers. If Rangers are in trouble, they call more Rangers. And if you go scroll through the comments, and there's hundreds, I think thousands of comments now, and it's just Marines going, "That's bullshit. Everybody calls the Marines." Oh, I was like, "What the fuck did you guys get that from?" And it was just one guy tagged somebody else, and it went nuts. So they uh they support each other like no other unit. Also, and it's not exclusive. There's no separation of units. We're the Marines. We're all here together, and you get everybody. If you get one, you get everybody. It's something else.
Yeah, cool thing I like about the Marine Corps is if your job doesn't exist on the battlefield, it doesn't exist in the Marine Corps.
So you show up to your team, team time, always amazing.
Yeah.
How was your team sergeant? Your team pretty good.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I showed up and they made me the XO of the company. And then after a few days, they decided that the team leader that was there before me was he needed to be asked to leave quickly. So crap. And the company commander Carlos Perez tells me he's retired now, and he tells me, Kevin, you got the worst team in the battalion. He didn't tell me that in so friendly words, and he said you need to fix it. So I'm like, oh crap. And then we start, and then we well, at the time, this is 2005 in B17, and B17 had just been tagged to go as a company through Cephalic, and then following go through the company go through Sephartic as a company, and then assume the CRIF role when C37 went to Iraq. And so that was interesting. So we started to do just EDRI stuff, and it was basic. Like we had an alert, and we're going to come in. This was like super basic for me coming out of Ranger Battalion. We have an alert, and we're assembling for PT formation like a half hour early. That was like our first alert. So the company commander calls me, and I tell him, and I call my team sergeant, and I'm all, hey, we got to come to PT formation. They're doing this as an EDRI. Well, PT formation until 6:30. I'm all, yeah, I got it, but we got to come in early, and they're kind of trying to gear us up to be on this CRIF kind of role. Well, we don't do that. I'm all, okay, this is an order. We'll get the team there by 6:30. And I call the warrant. Warren and I, or they'll be there by 6. And then, so Warren and I show up at 6, and team's not there. And then, so we all get called into the company commander and sergeant major's office. And then they asked me what happened. And I'm well, Kevin, did you get this message? Well, yes, I did. What did you do? Well, I called the warrant. I called my warrant, and I called my team sergeant and ordered him. And what did he say? He said, that's not what we do. And I told him he was ordered. And team sergeant said, yes, I did tell him that because that's not what we do. And well, then he got fired. And so now I did not have a team sergeant. And that went on for a while, and I was hunting around, and I didn't know too many people, and I was trying to get one. But I ended up getting an amazing team sergeant who is a dear friend of mine to this day, Hector Aguayo, retired sergeant major. I can't say enough good things about Hector and how he trained those guys, and how he trained me, how he worked with me, how he taught me to be a Green Beret. He was absolutely phenomenal. So I did get highly fortunate in that team sergeant arena.
Heard that name before. Can't place it at the moment, but I have heard that name before. Did you end up going on a combat rotation with that team?
Yep. Yeah, I did. We did a couple great rotations. We got when we assumed the CRIF role in '06. We went and did the now declassified Operation Willing Spirit, where we were looking for the three hostages plus Ingrid Betancourt that were being held by the FARC in Colombia. And that was a fantastic mission. Wearing suits by day, working out of the Embassy Intelligence Fusion Center and looking for where they may or may not be, doing a lot of cool Green Beret stuff. Like, hey, they said they're moving hostages around this area. Well, we're Green Berets. Let's go out there. Let's see how hard it would be to move. Let's give them an assessment. And we just did a lot of that. And it was absolutely awesome. Totally phenomenal. And then I came back from that, went and did some PMT, went to Afghanistan with them and did a 10-month rotation there, out in Zabul at a Kalat, and did a lot of great things and worked with some great men. And we had 6 Purple Hearts on our team, but no fatalities, which I'm real thankful and proud of.
Fuck yeah.
The
That's
one of
awesome.
those Purple Hearts being the JTAC. So
How did your team time compare to your PL time in Rangers?
it was phenomenal. And I was a chemical officer, by the way. I never did PL time. I just stood there. I did a SSE team lead, which helped me get that follow on job in Colombia as an SF guy. So I never did PL time there. I ran around and had random assignments, which was also really fun.
Oh, okay. So not an infantry guy. You were a chemical officer showing up to. We skipped around a lot. I think we've had a couple things here. We skipped around a lot, but usually I'm more concise. But it's just an interesting story. You've jumped around. You jumped around quite a bit um, in your career, and then so you finish up, team time. Which how did that feel? Wrapping that up, because you got to know.
Shitty.
You're like, is
Shitty.
this is? Did you know by that point? You're like, this is as good as it's gonna get.
I didn't know. And I also wasn't committed to staying in. I kind of was really sniffing the waters at this time. So I came to the end of my team time in late '08, and I was like I was thinking, I was going through a divorce also at that time. And so I was thinking, that contract world sounds pretty darn interesting. And I was really looking at that, and that's a lot of money, and I was thinking hard about it. And then I'd been through Sephardic, and people say, "Are you a CRIP guy?" That's another kinda. Well, kinda. I have an OER that says I successfully completed Sephardic, but I was never actually on a CRIP. I filled in with a CRIP mission, and they didn't give anyone ASIs from that Sephardic class. But I finished. But that's another one of my kindas in my military career. It was a damn good school. Really liked it. But but I wanted to go back. I wanted more team time, and I was going. I wanted to go to C37, do another team, and battalion commander flew out to my fire base, and he said, "Look, do you want to go do some really awesome training, or do you want to come back and help lead our logistical elements in combat?" I'm like, damn. You're asking me if I can help my country and my guys in combat. I don't think I can say no. So I didn't. And I said, I need a good team. I need a good first sergeant. I need that. And he said, I'll get you that. And I said, all right, sir, I'll do that. And that was really valuable. And I really liked it. And then now, deceased General Mulholland, rest his soul. The younger one, the cousin, the Sean. He then said, Kevin, he said, you've done a good job. I'm bringing you to group, and I'll support you doing whatever you want, but I need you to run the group headquarters. All right. I kind of had trouble saying no, so did that, and life was still good. And then I went to grad school, and life was still good. And now I'm like, shit. Now I'm committed. Now I got an ADSO, I an additional service obligation. I got a master's degree, and I'm going back to group to command a company, and I think I'm in it for the long haul. And I was. And it was good too. I
So
liked working for
so
SOC South a lot. SOC South was a wonderful assignment.
just yeah, there's a few places. You hear Sock South, and you don't think anything, but it's in Miami. So how terrible can it be? There's a few jobs out there that are well kept secrets. There's quite a few in first group as well, where they're pretty awesome if you can get into them. So you're sniffing the waters in '08 about getting out, and then you stayed in 13 more years.
Yep. Yep. And part of that was like, well, if I stay in, the Army's going to make me give my ex-wife a bunch of money, and they did. And I actually ended up, I felt a lot of that was was money well spent for a positive relationship with my son, which I have to this day. He's a firefighter in Alabama and living a great life.
Good. Good. Cost benefit ratio, right? When did it become apparent you weren't going to take a battalion and you kind of moved over to the 82nd? What is that process like?
So the I was really hoping I was coming back. I'd been Group 3, and I was doing well, and I thought, and I got told like, hey, we think you're coming back. All the little rumors, and I in Sock South, I have no idea why why things work the way they do. But then I did piss the group commander off. He wanted to do some stuff with some guys that I thought was not very smart, and I did say it on over a VTC, but that might have impacted it. Probably did, but I don't know if I would have felt good about not saying stuff I believe in. So no regrets. But the way it works out is you come out on the battalion command list. Okay, you can get in the battalion command. So I was still feeling good. I was okay. I'll be a battalion commander. I figured I'd come out on the list. I had a bunch of good report cards and all that. And then they do the slating later, and I don't really know what happens behind those curtains. But I got a call. I was at a conference at SOCOM, and I got a call, and it was the deputy commander for the 82nd. He said, "Welcome, you got a battalion." And I'm like, "Whoa, 82nd, holy shit!" And I had put it, that you rack and stack what you want to do, and I put tactical group command first, and I put tactical operational battalion command second. I wanted to stay operational, and a lot of guys put SWIC and other training things to stay in the SF regiment. I just wanted to stay. I wanted to stay. I want to be in the fight. I just wanted to stay in the fight. But I never deployed to combat in the 82nd. But that was my reasoning. And then poof, ended up in
Okay.
the 82nd, which was pretty valuable in a lot of ways. I always say I saw my biggest acts of selfless service in the 82nd, guys that were basically throwing themselves on swords in the careers because we were short manpower. And I was asking him, and I was like, God, you really need to go to NCOES, and this is not good to screw you like this. And it's okay, sir. And I also saw the biggest acts of selfish service in my career, particularly in the officer ranks. Guys that were just willing to say anything to look good, and Blue Falcon there, or Spotlight Ranger themselves onto.
Were you serious that you need like a social media manager for that?
Yeah, because really what they do, what it's a husband and wife team, and what they do is they bring in different events to our venue, and they film it. And it doesn't get a ton of likes and follows, but we'll get a good traffic of moms really that come into our facility because they see us on Facebook and this, and then she helps plan the different parties and events, and I can't always be there, nor can my wife. So it's she does a quality job. Like, hey, can we, like, for instance, she designs these pamphlets. Get the pamphlets done, and and then so it's kind of part. I miss having a staff, and it's not quite having a staff, but it does some of those similar things that move us along, and they have a good program. They don't work full time for us. They do their media representation for all sorts of folks, and it works. So we're one small piece, and they have different packages. And I want to say I think we pay like 1,200. Was it? No, we pay 1,200 to get going for the website design, and I think it's like $300 or $400 a month, where they do all sorts of posts, they do all sorts of things, they analyze analytics and look at where people are paying attention to stuff, and it does good for us.
That's cool. I Everything going on that everybody sees, like, oh, you're doing great. It's being made up on the spot by me. Like, I have at most 1 hour of content ahead. I am constantly, as I create it, posting it, and so it's weird. The whole thing's weird, but if I find something that I don't want to do, I'm just doing that, and it seems people seem to be liking it, and I'm all the content I put out is I make it for me, and people seem to like it. So
Good for you.
whatever, we'll see. We'll see how far it goes. I'm having a lot of fun, and somebody sent me the nicest message last night, and I just want to. This is it. We're getting to the point where when you're like, oh, I'm thinking about getting out, or I'm going to go all in. we are we're right at that tipping point where I'm like, man, I could burn the fucking thing down and go complete. Like I'm all in right now, but like fully commit to we're going to lose the house or we're going to be successful. And if I make that commitment, I'm gonna we will get to the point where I want it to be even faster because it's going to get there. It's just how fast and how destructive do I want to be with this thing? Um, and will that take away from the content and things like this? But I'm having a lot of fun, and I get to talk to fucking people that I find interesting, and hopefully everybody else finds interesting as well. So I'm having fun with it. But
I think it's cool. Great work.
thank you. It's interesting, and I am excited to see where it goes and to meet people and to be able to tell their stories. And like my wife said last night, she's like, you should tell people about this. I was like, no, like I'm going to just keep, because the show is all about my guests. It's all about my guests. And if I just keep that and I keep doing the things that I want, the way I want to do them, and if people don't like it, the market will decide. And that's a scary thing to make content that I like and then say, if the market decides that they don't want me, they'll get rid of me. And that's what we're going to go with. That's our metric. And it's a scary thing.
That's
The next
Cosmic
new
Tiki's
thing is I
metric
got to,
too.
you guys, that's cool though. Florida's, you don't have to sell Florida to a lot of people. It's not Wisconsin. There's no winter. Kind of. You guys had winter last year, I think, but that was up north. But it's got a lot of things going for it. And it does. People like to go have fun in the sun, so that. You got a lot of positives going for you guys. All right, so deputy commander calls you. Hey, welcome to the team. Did you ever get a sense of once you got on that side of things when do they snatch up an SF commander when they see one that's available, or they're like, "Fuck yeah,"
In 80 to the
or
82nd? No,
yeah,
I do not think so. That is square peg round hole. That is build this. There's a lot. That was there. So every command climate's I'm sure different as things go along. It was I really enjoyed working with a lot of the young men and women. I really enjoyed it. It was really more, it's a large organization, and a lot of them they get part of the army, moving along and getting in line, and you 400 people go over here and get in this line for whatever it is that you're getting processed for that, whether it's medical or jump out of a plane or shoot a gun or whatever. But in SF and in the Ranger Regiment and some of the smaller organizations I've been part in, SOC South too, you get you get a lot of detailed care, and I knew how to do that. And it made it really rewarding to see the young men and women that like may have stumbled and bumped their toe and were correctable. And I found that really rewarding to go, hey, let me give you some individual care, and here's some advice and some program, and let me get you on your way. And it was, and they hadn't seen that a lot in their career, and that was that made it. I really liked doing that. I really enjoyed doing that. I really appreciated the ability. My battalion was 800 paratroopers. It was a lot of folks, and so, but wasn't too hard, like any organization, to look and see the folks that A are having problems, and then B, the ones that are solvable, and C, the ones that have the attitude that they want to solve it. And when you could see those three things, and you could apply some good mentorship and through their NCOs primarily, that was great. What was not fun was being part of like a bunch of there's a lot of self-righteous officer and senior NCO stuff that I saw going on there that I hadn't seen in other parts of my service, and that was hard to be part of. And everything has to be big. And I'll tell a quick vignette of the second time I got my ass chewed in the 82nd, which was we had a jump, and I had the headquarters and headquarters battalion, which was we had the division staff, I had the combatives program, I had the airborne leaders course, I had the airborne indoctrination course, I had the pre-ranger course, what they call CERT, small unit ranger tactics course, and I had the band and the public affairs folks and some of those, and the signal and intelligence companies. So I had all the odds and ends. And so we got all these odds and ends, and we're doing an airborne jump. All right, cool. We're doing an airborne jump. We also have this big staff exercise, which involves a whole bunch of the battalion the next morning at early, and it's starting at like 5 or something. And so, all right, we got this airborne operation. Airborne operation is getting kicked back, and the planes it's getting delayed, and now we're ending up with TOTs. It's I'll say 02 or 03. So I'm like, gosh, they're not going to get any sleep. This is going to suck. And S3 comes in and says, sir, are we drawing weapons? Well, why are we drawing weapons? Is there a tactical scenario? I don't know. What do you need weapons for? I don't know, sir. No, we're not drawing weapons. No, just like we're not even training as a unit, right? We're just going to go to the Steiner Aid and assemble and get on the buses, right? So yeah, I'm okay. Comes back. Are we drawing nods and commo? Well, I'm thinking about, is there another unit out there that's training that we kind of want to make sure we don't have any white light, or is there any scenario that we would need nods? Are we doing any commo shots? Is there an SOI? Are we doing any training scenario? Do we need to talk to anybody? No, sir, no, sir. Well, there's a DZSO, right? Yeah. Okay. And they have commo. Yeah. And all right. Well, do we have, and just the leaders had commo anyway. So it's not like everybody has commo. So, and the buses are going to have their lights on, right? So we know where to go. So yeah, I'm okay. Well, no camo. What do you need camo for? And it's all right. And he comes back again. Sir, are we camoing up? Well, again, is there some scenario that I need to be aware of for camo? All right, fine. Like, no camo. Let's just jump, get on the way, fill out the jump form, and make sure the guys get some sleep, and we'll get to the staff exercise. All right. Well, I got a call that morning at 04 directly from the CG. So we're not the 82nd Jump Club. You will be putting on camo and airborne and all the weapons and all the everything for every out. And I go, whoa. Okay, I'm obviously not familiar with what's going on here for a non-tactical jump, but all right. And then his punishment, even the safeties had to camo up and draw their weapons and nods. that was the second time I got my ass chewed in the 82nd.
That sounds pretty dumb, but
As an SF guy, that was a
completely
hard thing
normal
to do.
from, yeah, that sounds completely normal to me though, from what everybody's told me about the age. There is no strap hanging. You jump just like you're going, it's D-Day every time. And
Hmm.
your life depends on it, even if it's just for jump pay. But good on them. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, or I whatever. I guess you can just get used to it. You just get used to that's just the way things are here. And if you're not used to it, because this is your first exposure to the regular army, pretty much, right? At all.
Yeah, since pre 9/11, I had not. I didn't even own PTs, and I showed up for you're supposed to have your 10 days permissive TDY, and I showed up. And I just let them know what I'm doing, and then it was like I'd call it at 9 o'clock or 2100, depending on how you want to look at it at night, and then they say, hey, the CG wants to run with you tomorrow morning. And I own zero PTs. I own zero. It was on my list of things to do. Was go buy some regular Army PTs. I'm like, shit. Can you hook me up to his aid? I don't have any. And so he hooked me up a little bit, but that organization expects a
Which
lot, and they do a lot. They are very good at what they do. The SF and Ranger Regiment, at least through combat means, can't take over a small country, but the 82nd can
Yeah, I mean, we did take over a small country, but
through
yeah.
combat. Yeah, but I mean through traditional jump out of airplanes. We're going to seize the high ground and put our flags up and guidons everywhere and sound the trumpets the next morning. We SF can do
Okay,
things very
we're here.
uniquely.
This is ours now.
Yes,
All right, which beret did you wear?
I wore the maroon. And well, that's a good question, because here's what I did when I was representing the 82nd and representing my battalion. I wore the maroon. When I was going to somebody's retirement ceremony or official line of work that was to do with that I was not representing my unit, I wore the green. So I did wear them both. But if I was representing my men and women, my paratroopers, I wore the maroon. And it stung a little, but I thought that was the right thing to do. And people can disagree, but that's
That's
what I did.
yeah, that's the correct answer. That's the correct answer. God, who was on here? And they were talking about I think it was Colonel Sullivan or something. Maybe I don't know. But anyway, there was an '06 billet, and that interview, maybe it was '05. But anyway, their interview, what color in the board, what color beret are you going to wear? And the guy gave the answer of whatever you guys want me to. Apparently, that's the wrong answer. He didn't get the job. The correct one was you wear the beret of the people that you're in charge of. He didn't get the job. Um, so yeah, that is the correct answer from my minimal experience interviewing people. Here is that's the one you wear.
Yeah,
But
people, and
to each his own.
people saw me wear the green. Yeah, and I didn't really get any flack when I wore it, but I never stood in front of a formation with it, with the green.
Well, were there any other SF officers in the 82nd while you were there?
No, there was an NCO, and he seemed really disgruntled, and I barely ever even talked to him. He worked in the 3 shop. He was, I think he was a 5th group guy. He just seemed pissed. Barely talked to him. There were some
I'll bet he was.
SF qualified officers. In other words, they were PAs. There was one pilot, but there was no other 18 series.
Um, how was it being at Bragg there and seeing SWIC? Because you said that a lot of guys would list that as an option for command, and then above an 82nd role. How was that seeing them and going, mate, did I make the right decision?
Oh yeah, there was definitely some doubt.
What was it like being so close to SWIC and having that constant reminder of what could have been? Did that play on your mind at all while you were there at the 82nd?
It did. It did, especially when I kind of would laugh. I explained my reasoning, which is I wanted to stay operational. I didn't want to train. I wanted to get it. I want to be in the fight. And as I and then I kind of and I say that, and then my job, and I would laugh with my CSM. It was a great CSM. Currently, well, I'll leave it out. He's active duty, but the he and now I'm doing the new. Now I'm leading the staff efforts for the new KSOP, the Combined Army Joint Airborne SOP, or whatever the hell it stands for. But that was a heavy step. Everything I was doing was significant staff direction. So I was like, yep. Didn't really stay operational. Definitely doing the staffing my ass off. But it was valuable. I don't really want to armchair quarterback and say I wish I could have, if all that. I think I met some great people there. I would not want those years and that experience to be moved away. I looked at it with a lot of frustration. I also look back at it with a lot of value and positive lessons learned. I just may have selected differently if I had the choice to make again.
Yeah, we're all experts in hindsight. We're all fucking geniuses in hindsight, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So did you retire out of the 82nd then, or did you?
No, absolutely not. I made.
There's one more unit.
I did. I really, the way you've seen folks retire out of different special operations organizations, and it's always wonderful. It's always really about the guy. In the 82nd, it kind of has to be, but it's really about, okay, all of you 5 that are retiring within the next 30 days, you're gonna, or it'd be more than that. It'd be like 20. and you're all going to line up, and here's the formation, and here's the rehearsal, and invite your friends and family, and we're going to do all of you at once, and the general's going to say a bunch of words, and you have no say in the ceremony, and this is the way we're doing it. And it's like, God, hell with that. And I had to fall on a specific timeline. So, I just, and Soft does a very good job compared to a lot of the other organizations of taking care of their own, and they can, because there's few of them. So that's kind of one of the benefits. And I was not going to retire out of the regular Army, so I called General Fletcher at the time, and asked. I said, sir, I'd like to come back to Sock South, and I'll give you the. I basically made a deal. I'll say, I'll give you 1 solid year if you give me 1 solid year, and I'll do whatever you need, and I'll come. And I ended up giving them about 1 3/4, and then they gave me 1, and came down, had a great job. Really appreciated being back at Sock South, and I retired out of there. But I retired during
Okay.
COVID, which was basically like, here's some paper with somebody at the mass giving you, and if you want to do an off post celebration, enjoy.
So it still didn't exactly work out, but at least you didn't have to stand up on stage
Yeah,
with,
I have zero. I could have. I don't need a dog and pony show. I don't need a big award. I don't care about any of that. I'm actually kind of take some pride in. I got my final award in a thing, and I just there it is, because that's what it means to me. I don't wear awards or badges these days. Well, actually, I think I have to scroll on, but in reality, I don't.
with the hat and the shirt on.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I don't run around with badges on.
no, I put my uniform on for funerals and for Memorial Day. My retirement award's in the garbage somewhere. I was so pissed off about it, that yeah, I called back to my unit. I said, why did my award get downgraded to an ARCOM? I have like 6 or 7 ARCOMs. And they're like, oh, well, because you're not an E7. I was like, Master Sergeant, I am an E7. He said, oh, well, that sucks. And he hung up. Thanks, dude. I appreciate that.
I still
Fuck
haven't
you
read
guys
mine,
too.
but I'm sure it says I did
Oh,
some wonderful things.
there was a piece of paper stuck in mine, and I've got it right here next to my desk. It's one of my prized possessions from the boys at S3, saying how they missed having me around, and I look at it every day. That's just this little write in the rain piece of paper. It's one of my prized possessions from the military. So that came inside the award. The award went right in the garbage. So
That's
it's
all right. Yeah, one of
it's the little things.
my favorite award from the 82nd was from my sergeant major, and has some pictures of us through the years, and then it says on it, some LNDTA forever, and that came out of we were doing this crazy outload exercise that like we haven't practiced outloading the division for X amount of years in full scale, so we decided to outload the division and drive all the trucks down to a port in Wilmington and load up all sorts of giant trucks on seagoing vessels and turn right around and unload them. And oh my God, that was a logistical nightmare. And we did just we did a brigade plus, but it was a lot of work. It was hard. And one of my we were briefing up on that, and they always had weird acronyms. I didn't know what they fully meant. And then so I looked at my CSM and I said, LNDTA. He goes, what's that? And well, it's what we got to focus on. So I don't even know what that is. Well, let's never do this again. And he just laughed. And that kind of became our internal, small resistance SEER school kind of things, like, don't worry, LNDTA, never doing this again.
Big Army loves its acronyms. So you get out during COVID, and then you start on some projects. Did you have a lot of these things in your mind as you're starting to get out down in Sox or down in Miami? You're like, these are what I want to do, or how was that transition for you? Because you said it's different for everybody.
Yeah, I had some thoughts. I had some different dart boards that I'd kind of practiced throwing some darts on in some different directions, and I had thought real hard about still doing some contract work, and I thought that'd be fun, and really thought, I might want to do that, and I wanted to do real estate, and I liked. I knew I was going to do the cattle ranch, but that I could do contract work or various real estate stuff and still do that. And so I was really kind of playing with it, then really reading that 2020 BRAC, and then compromising with my now wife on moving to Cocoa Beach and starting to buy property. And I really wanted a wake surf boat, and she was entertaining that. I'm okay. I think this is aligning. Let's do this. And so it kind of came together like that. And I didn't know one person, but I know a lot of folks now in Cocoa Beach, and we got a great veteran community, and that's made it a lot easier. I was at our VFW yesterday. I'm regularly there and active member on the House committee, and I like being part of this great city and great organizations of VFW and veteran networks.
It's what you make it. If you want to be involved, you'll be involved, and you can make things better. Why? So veterans as a whole have a hard time transitioning, and we're no different. We have more skills, but sometimes our identity it gets very tied up in. I know mine has in special forces and the things we attained, um, because we sacrifice so much to get there, and oftentimes at a personal level, like we sacrifice our families as well to get there. So we're very deeply invested in this, and then it all goes away. I know I took it very hard. Why do you think we have such a hard time transitioning into the civilian way of thinking or way of life
I think you
as SF guys?
I think you nailed it. I think so much of it becomes so much of our identity, and sadly, I saw it much worse in the 82nd. You know, guys would retire, and then their enjoy out of retirement was growing sideburns and a long mustache and still hanging out in the company area. Like, what are you doing? And I saw that a lot. Like they don't move on, they don't leave. Particularly, I had the Advanced Airborne School under me, and they would they'd find ways to hang out there for long periods of time as like E6s, E7s, and then they just seemed to never leave. Well, after they would retire, and then they just hang out, and they'd be there for all the division runs and all the stuff. And I just thought, so I think that was, I think it's similar in a lot of other parts of the military. I think something that's helped me was I already had very much a life and an identity before I ever went in the military, and I never let go of that. I still have a lot of friends from before the military that are still great friends, and I think that wasn't a plan. That was a lucky stumble into it, and realize now how it benefited me. But I think that has helped me a lot, and always in the things like the cattle ranches helped me. Things that I can identify with that I were before, and now they carry on. But I do see a lot of difficulties, and particularly running a business. I find in some ways it's like cheating because you just apply mission analysis, IPB, MDMP, TLPs, and you just apply that, and it works really well. And in fact, where I see guys screwed up is because they screw up. Well, hey, I want to do this, but I need to live by my sick aunt, or I want to do this, but my family's over here, and I need to be close to mom. Well, you can't get an HVT on a target if you decide that you want to go after the wrong house. You need to identify all 5 Ws and nail them, or you'll never reach your objective. And I watch a lot of guys do that. I'm going to do this, but I have to be here. And I have to wait till now. I can't do it until my kids are out of school. Well, you just screwed up the win. And that's not a bad thing. But if you're telling me this is your goal and you're not nailing the 5 Ws on your mission statement, you fucked up before you started. And I see that a lot, and I see frustration in that.
You're not being told what to do anymore. A lot of the guys, and I'm learning more and more, especially on the enlisted side, they're coming from. I can name any number of things they're coming from in their personal life before, right? But basically, their civilian life sucked, and they're high performers. But like they're growing up, their childhood or their college, it just sucked, and then they find the military and they go, "This is easy. It's too easy." And then they keep finding that success, and it never ends. And then it ends. And now, well, fuck, uh, that was an easy framework. I just fit into that shit. And you get so rigid in, in the laws and customs of the military, and then it all goes away, and nothing compares at all. Like nothing compares. You get it's very easy to survive in the military, and then once you figure it all out, oh god, it's very rewarding. Like, oh man, I accomplished this, I accomplished this, I accomplished this. And you said you saw a lot of people selflessly serve in the 82nd. God, when you do that, that's full commitment to a unit that the people that you serve with care about you, but the unit doesn't give a fuck about you. It's not a real thing. It's a arm of the government that has to do a job. So the people, everybody's going to transition out. So you have full commitment to a unit that doesn't care about you, and the people they're gonna PCS away, or they're going to retire, and then it's all going to go away. So you're still tied to this unit that's not reciprocating, and it's
Yeah,
God,
and that's
it's a
true across
crazy
the
thing,
board.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's true across the board. It is, and yet I don't know. I feel like I've luckily made some good. I did not struggle in transitioning. Of course, everyone does to a degree. One of my biggest problem is I don't feel like I'm over ambitious. I feel like I'm slowing down. But it turns out when I don't have a staff and a bunch of people, my simple, what I think are simple, easy ideas are very over ambitious because it's just me trying to figure out how to do it. Like you're saying on with running your podcast, it's all of a sudden doing something that sounded really easy when you have a staff is really hard. But and so I'm learning to slow down. That's challenging. And then the other thing is people don't. You say in the military, I need you to do X, Y, and Z by Friday. Okay. If they don't do it, that's punitive to whatever degree you want to apply the UCMJ or whatever. In the civilian world, it's sorry. There's they got to pay these lawyers to make all this writing and have all this crap just to get something done on time. Then they still can make excuses, and things don't happen on time. That's frustrating. But I have found a lot of success, at least emotionally. And I think fitness and nutrition help, friend groups help, and also and then that identity. And I got lucky, and I think you could invent this along your military career if it was something that concerns someone. Is just having something outside hobbies. I'm a skier. I'm a surfer. I like to wake surf and surf in the ocean, and I like to explore the outdoors. And that stuff always gives me something to look forward to. That I look forward to before I was in the military. Looked forward to it during, and I look forward to it now. And I would advise to people, like I always tell people, have a hobby. If ever someone told me my hobby is God and country in the unit, I'm like, okay, well, that sounds great. And I'm sure you'll show up on time and do awesome, but you need more than that. You're not going to relate to your troops if that's it. And you're just going to go to church because you think you need to be seen there. And I'm not trying to judge. I know some people are very devout in their experiences and find a lot of value in that. And that's wonderful. But a lot of times when I heard that, I saw someone that was going to be that veteran that can't transition very well and not be able to relate to their troops correctly.
God, I was man, I would people would get out and they're like, "Oh, I accomplished all these things while I was in. I got a degree and I did all this stuff." I'm like, "Man, I didn't do shit. I got my beret and my tab. That's all I focused on for 5 years. That's it. That's the only thing." And then 3 years was like supporting group, and then I'm out and it was over. And I don't know. I It's different for everybody. It's a different path. And it's a crazy thing because now it's 25. So we're 3 months, 4 months away from. I was no, actually, we're right there. I've been out the same amount of time I was in, and now it's like, man, but that just doesn't feel the same. It's at all. There's no comparison. And you're right. The hobbies and things. You've got to bury yourself, transition into something else. It's unfortunate that a lot of guys make drinking their hobby when they get out. I mean, I know I did. I was very good at it. So I'm happy that you did not um, go down the same route.
I admittedly probably have a few, I throw a few too many back, and I actually joke with my doctor. We were college buddies, and he knows me, and he'll say, I'm all, so how's your blood looks good. I'm all, Rodney, you know how much I drink. You're just giving me a blank slate of approvals. Well, I tell you, it looked bad. I'm like, all right, well, I'll see you Friday night. I say that fully knowing I'd be better off if I didn't. I just, damn it, I like it.
There's a social benefit aspect to it as well because you said you go out and live bands and seeing your friends and things like that. There is some of those. and but the preservation of my life and family depended on it ending for me. So,
Yeah, I hear you.
uh,
I will say this.
yeah.
I have the Afghanistan withdrawal. That was one of the few times in my life that I was drinking for the wrong reasons, and I've always tried to keep whatever kind of illicit thing you are into, and alcohol being one of the worst. There's other things like people get addicted to social media and other stuff, and there's a lot of vices out there, and I've always tried to keep the vices, whatever they are, as recreation. Like, okay, responsibility, and I did find that during that botched Afghan withdrawal, I was going through some deep depression, and I was drinking for the wrong reasons, and I really had to look myself in the mirror and knock that the fuck off. And I moved it back into the recreation box. Okay, you don't open this box until you're done with responsibilities, and you get on. You can turn the beer light on now, and it's a little safer for me there. And I still, it's not a positive. It's not a net positive. It's got a lot of health negative, but I'm not feeling it. Can still run a decent mile, and I can still lift a decent amount of weight, and I still feel good, and I still wake up. I don't miss meetings. My family's not screwed up, but I recognize that there's some risk there, and I started to fall down that pit hole, and I luckily got myself out.
I I feel for you there, man. I have no frame of reference. You've articulated it the best of everybody that's come on here. Everybody said it differently, but that moment where they felt something that, I mean, I imagine it's akin to the guys in 1975 watching the embassy people being loaded onto a helicopter in Vietnam. It's exactly the same image too.
Mhm.
Uh, just a modern helicopter, exactly the same thing. And yeah, I never got to go, but I that's I feel for you. That's tough, man.
That's I
I
got 3.5 years of my life in that country, and I lost a lot of friends. Friends, and I lost. Josh Whitaker died officially. Died. He was dead when he got there, but at the time they had to kind of wait to announce it. So, but he effectively died right in front of me in my arm seat. But that was just different then. They had to wait until I'm going to get the right official to say he's dead.
yeah.
It sucked.
So you guys saw some fucking terrible fighting in '06 and '07 in Afghanistan.
Yeah, it was interesting, because I'd been there with the Ranger Battalion, and there really wasn't a lot of significant fighting when we were there initially. Roberts Ridge, of course, was, and I showed up during that, but that was 175 and not 275. And but then we were pretty much just bumbling around and looking for people with RPGs to shoot at, and there was a lot more to that. Of course, we did some great things, and I don't want to put light on it, but when I came back in '07 and thought like, oh, I've been here. It's really not that bad. Iraq was worse. That's crazy. It's not that I was rudely awakened of like, whoa, this is this is serious. Getting your gun on. Seeing whites of eyes was a new experience to me when you're shooting at people. That was there was some serious fighting.
I've had a few guests on that were there in '07, probably with you, either rotating in or rotating out, and yeah, rough. Yeah, rough time. And then just glazed over because Iraq big at that time,
Hmm.
and I mean, we don't get too much into it on this show, but it is interesting. Like SF, we did our thing in the beginning, and then just continued kind of behind the scenes until the regular army left, and then fully invested until everything fell apart, and then everybody's just left to go with what the fuck, guys? Like what the fuck, as you said. So yeah, I feel for you there. That's rough, man. I never got to go, and I don't steer the show too much in that direction because I have no frame of reference and it's not my area of expertise. So,
That withdrawal,
but
that was the I was no longer serving, but that was the hardest part of my service was that was the closest I ever was to suicide or and I wasn't there, but I was the thoughts were popping into my head, And I just that was a hard time when we did that withdrawal. And I got out of it. My wife helped and other veterans helped, but that was it was tough on me.
Was it just like helpless of
Yeah, I was
or
just like, I just felt like I need to go back. I need to go. I need to find a way to get over there. I need to that this just stupid thoughts. What am I going to do? What's the, what's some middle-aged man with reasonably okay but not awesome gun skills anymore? What am I going to solve? But I felt like that's what I needed to do.
I imagine a lot of people had the same sentiment, just dealing with it differently. Um,
I led to alcohol. Alcohol was my solution. It numbed me, made the day go away.
yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, some guys just checked out, and that's the other thing, right? The other transition. It's become such um, a viable path now these days. It's like, fuck this, I'm out, and you guys deal with my pain, all of it, right? You guys deal with it, and that's another thing. An- that I'm using this platform because I will talk about it as much as it fucking weird and sucks and go of, hey man, guys, this shit is going on and nobody's talking about like the the real effects because guys, I think guys we're fighting against these split second decisions of guys making, okay, I'm out, that's it. Where if you're drinking, it takes 5-10 years to drink yourself to death. We can deal with that, we can get you better. But if you're making a decision to just pull over on the side of the road and check out and leave everybody else to sort it out, that's very hard to defend against unless we start using these incidents as, unfortunately, as shitty as it sounds, as lessons learned or training, using terms that we know. This is a fucking um, a learning, teaching moment, right? Like, look at this. Look at the devastation that we're leaving on this family and all these hundreds of people. You guys just lost somebody three weeks ago. Seventh group guy, senior guy, first group, third group lost a guy. All three within the same week. All senior dudes. Um, and it's really that part fucking kills me the most. Um, I didn't mean to say it like that, but that guys are choosing this as a way out.
I hear
And
you.
hopefully, as I said with this, like what are you doing it all for? It's for my guests. But man, if I can rise to a position to get to where I can start helping people not make that decision, that's fucking it's a long shot goal, but hopefully that's where all this goes in addition. So it all keeps adding on. And it's all one big thing as we move down the road to help people out of. Because I've been there. It fucking sucks.
Yeah, it's 100%, Nick. And it's something we all could do. And guys, I often get reminded by this is just call a brother. I get these reminders to do it every now and then by someone who calls me that I haven't talked to for 3 or 4 years. So, hey, what's going on? Oh, hey, how are you? And just catch up and just check. And then that always reminds. And then when someone does that to me, it inspires me. Well, I need to check on some people, and I'll just pick some folks. And I think that the more we could do that, that's a small thing we could do to help our brothers.
Yeah. I try not to get too dismissive with the 22 push ups a day. Okay, yes, it does bring awareness. It doesn't fucking do anything. Uh, you know, getting fresh in people's minds of, hey, fuck, man, I'm going through the same shit too. Oh, fuck, Nick, you're going through the same shit. Fuck, I'm going through this. Listen, we're all fucking going through it to some extent. Let's talk about it. That's that's really, I think, where it all leads to. Hey, come on, bring it in, guys. Listen up. Pour yourself a drink or grab a root beer. Let's talk about this shit. Hopefully, we can get more to that point. Um, and do, I don't know, good. Do some good. At least not for us. Like fucking, we're very good at do some good for the families that suffer or your friends that suffer. We're gone. If you check out, you're gone. Like these people sit in these churches and just give the fucking nicest, they say the nicest things about us after we're gone. That, you know, it'd be really nice if you could hear these things while you're alive. Because they say, and the underlying tone, because people get up there and they'll say these nice things, and I'm listening and I'm going, you know, this person is what they're really saying is, why the fuck did you do this to me? Why did you leave me here like this? Why the fuck would you do this? You wouldn't do this for anything else ever in your life. Why did you do this to me? And that little thing I just said, that needs to be said to all SF guys or all service members or all military or even anybody in the private sector, police, firemen. Dude, teachers see fucking bad shit, right? And yeah,
My
it's not
my
exclusive.
son sees a lot. He's
Yeah.
a firefighter.
So just that of translating these veiled things that people say up there in front of the people of this and that, but it's, why the fuck would you do this to me? And you know, I guess I went off on a little bit there, but we got into it. So I got five questions I ask everybody, and I'll cut you loose, man.
It's enjoyable though. It's easy to get sidetracked.
It
I
is. It
value the
is.
conversation.
All right, man. What is your response to thank you for your service?
I almost always say I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate it. It was my honor.
An honor. I say that one too. I think it's the best. It's good for me. It's good for them. There's no negative going forward. You're like, everybody feels okay, cool. What is the one characteristic that sets operators apart from the conventional forces?
The inability to accept no. I still love to tell my team, find the yes. We can't do this because of that. Nope, find the yes. I'll give you a
What
short.
is the?
I'll give you a short
Oh,
video,
go ahead.
a short vignette that was very frustrating but selfless service, selfless about the 82nd. I come in as a battalion command. I'm an SF guy, and I'm all right. Hey, I want to do this, and you could give them a mission to move from point A to point B, and yes, sir, all right, got it. We're all the way on it. And then where an SF guy will be like, we can't do that. What the fuck are you talking about? Shut the fuck up, sir. We ain't doing that. It's fucking garbage. Terrible idea. And then you argue. And then the SF guys go ahead and they do it anyway, and they kick ass and they succeed begrudgingly. My 82nd guys will go, aye, sir. And they go fly off a cliff. Well, what the fuck? You need to tell me there's a cliff. Well, sir, you said go that way. I need feedback when I got fucked up ideas. And then they didn't think like that. We can't tell them no. Well, yeah, tell me no. But just to that point, that was a hard thing to learn when I was in the 82nd. Because SF guys
It's not taught.
they'll do it. They'll figure it out. They'll hate you, and they'll figure it out, and they'll do it.
It's not taught in the regular army. You just do whatever you're told to a certain point. What is the one moment of your career that you wish you could go back and relive or redo, and it wouldn't change where you are now?
Great question. That's a great question. There's a lot of them would change what happened. I think I had a slot to Pathfinder school, and I decided not to go so I could basically be loyal with some stuff the Ranger Regiment was doing. And again, the Ranger Regiment doesn't care about me when I'm gone, and should have took that darn slot. That's a cool badge.
It is.
Never went,
It is.
and I turned it down.
What was the stuff that was going on that you turned it down for?
Well, the actuality was I was working. I got a favor. The quick story is went to the infantry officer advanced course. I'd been to selection, so going the Q course route. They had this thing called CAS Q that they sent all the little captains to in this little school, and the CAS Q went away during the time that I was in the infantry the captain's career course, and some Ranger guys hooked me up with the combatives program, and they were because they were sending out all these. They were standing up this thing called BOLIC at the time. It still exists, and all the little captains were getting tasked out to all this bullshit all over Benning. And so I went to a couple NCOs and I'm like, you guys hooked me up. I'll write SOPs for you. I'll do whatever. And Matt Larson and Jeremy Brown and some great Ranger NCOs, all right, come on. And I'm all like, I don't need to be in charge. Just so I got to hang out as an instructor at the Modern Army Combatives program for 4 months, and I felt some loyalty to that. And they got me a slot to Pathfinder. I said, no, I told you I'd do this. I'll do this. So as Range Regiment guys, I wasn't in Range Regiment when it happened, but I look. They don't. No one gives a shit if I stayed there and did my job at the combative school. I should have gone to Pathfinder, but I enjoyed it.
What is the best piece of advice that you received during your career?
Never quit. Never quit. Simple, but if you don't, I told my son when we went to RASP, they can't make you quit. They'll tell you they can, but they can't. Only you can make yourself quit. Never quit. And the hard part about that is remembering it always.
It's going to get tough at times. All right, man. What were you afraid of then, and what are you afraid of now?
I was afraid of losing. I was afraid of losing teammates. I was afraid of losing people I cared about, and I think that hasn't changed. It's just different. Now I hope they're doing okay in their world, and I hope the people that are immediately around me are doing as well as possible, and I try to do what I can to help in ways I can.
Think you're doing a good enough job?
People aren't falling dead next to me, so that's a notable thing of success.
That's the first indicator, right? It sounds like some Seaburn shit right there. See what I did there?
Yeah.
All right, man. How can everybody find you on the socials if they so choose?
I'm the key. I'm mostly just on Instagram, the Key Brand, and the Cow is How is on there too, and I am on Facebook within the SF community. It's just Kevin Key. I get some damn impersonators out there which I can't stand. I try to take money from people, but there's only
No
one
way.
me.
Really?
Yeah, I hate that shit.
Oh, that means you've made it. I appreciate you coming on, man. You got anything for me?
No, Nick. Hey, good. Thanks for what you're doing, bringing a lot of cool things to light, letting people have a voice. So you have a great voice, great content out there. I think you're doing good things for our community and good things for our society as a whole.
I appreciate that. I hope so. I hope I can do some good, and we'll see. It's only been 6 months,
Well,
so
awesome. Keep kicking ass.
we'll see. I appreciate you coming on. Bye, everybody.